What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Season Gaming Bitcast episode 195. Lovely Sunday morning here. I am your host, Ainsley Boyden. Ainsley Boyden. Ainsley Bowden. I got my own name wrong.
It's going to be a day.
Yeah, it's going to be a good episode. We got the whole crew back this week. To my left is the man, the myth, the legend, the seven, Dan Rodriguez. What's happening,
That's
brother?
right, buddy. Back from vacay. So
yeah, I heard it was a fantastic vacation.
It was terrible. Anytime that happens, any kind of in-law vacation, it's usually not great. So I'm just going to leave it at that because my wife can probably hear me in the other room.
Well, good to be back chatting video games, of course. As always, in our bottom right, the virtual legality host himself, Mr. Rick Hogue. What's happening, sir?
I'm excited. I'm excited to talk games. This is gonna be fun. We've got good topics, and I can get my name right, so I'm already one up on some people in this particular episode.
Yeah, Dan. And last but not least, you know him well. The guy I just learned not 15 minutes ago used to be a lot more of a man. Mr. Tie Guy Travis himself.
McClunky.
That could be taken the wrong way. I didn't mean it that way, by the way. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I think we should just let Ames talk today.
Let's
just send them all back to him.
Just to be clear, what he's referencing, I let Ames in on a little known fact about me, which is that about 2 years ago when I started appearing in IGN's videos, I was 65 pounds heavier than I am now. And I lost a ton of weight in 2020. So if you want to see chubby Travis, you can watch some Fireteam chat from 2 years ago, as Ains did before, and was shocked at my former appearance. So
that's what I was trying to reference to unsuccessfully.
Instead, he referenced the fact that my manhood was chopped off or something of that nature. I don't know what he was going for there,
but yes, very special Bitcast.
Right. But I went back and looked at this Fireteam chat from 2 years ago with Lance Reddick. Actually, awesome episode, by the way. I presume because Lance is.
Awesome. It was awesome. It was a great episode. Yeah.
But you don't even look like the same person. Like it's kind of uncanny. That's really
fun. Yeah. 65 pounds can change, man.
Well, today we're going to be talking about a little bit about Starfield. We got some kind of new information on that this week. We're going to talk about Hogwarts Legacy and that PlayStation State of Play, which I think has gotten a very positive response. We'll talk a little bit about ID at Xbox Showcase, some releases like Tunic, Dan's game that he's been waiting, I think, since before we started the show. It's finally out. We're going to talk about Gran Turismo 7 and some of the both complaints and misconceptions about what's going on there, and a few other things as well. So before we do that, boys, I do have an on-the-spot question for you today. And I was thinking about this because I was talking to someone yesterday about Starfield. And someone mentioned to me that Starfield presumably will have a building aspect in it somewhat similar, but I presume more advanced than Fallout 4. So if you remember in Fallout 4, you could kind of build your home base and expand upon it and blah, blah, blah. And basically what I said is, okay, let's not make that part of anything you have to do, because I can't stand when a game makes me build. It's like one of the biggest things I despise in games is making me build something. Like I tried to go back to No Man's Sky recently since launch, right? So I haven't played it since it was like bare bones of a game. And it's completely different, but part of the entire intro to the game now, you have to build stuff. And I immediately lost interest. I uninstalled and I haven't touched it since. I just can't be bothered with that. That's not what I like to do in a game. So the question for you guys is there an aspect of a game that will immediately turn you off of it? Something that a game asks you to do, something that it does, some type of feature that just immediately you're like, nope, I hate that. I can't be interested in that.
Man. Yeah, I can answer this one.
Go for it.
One of the things I really hate is, as a single player gamer primarily, when a game allows you to play single player, works just fine, but the levels have clearly been built for cooperative. And I'm thinking here of like the Mario 3D Worlds, the Assassin's Creed Unities, where you've got a game that just feels like it's not built for you. And you could feel that, in my opinion, each and every step of the way when you're playing a game like that. And it's great. I'm thrilled that some people like co-op and that that's for them. To me, it's really hard to have this kind of one size fits all where the levels can accommodate a one-person kind of concept as well as a four-person concept, right? You think about new Super Mario Brothers that has that cooperative component. The levels are different because they have to be able to have four people and bubbles and all this random stuff, and it's not as tight or what I was looking to play. So every time that happens, I am much more disinclined to purchase it or to otherwise enjoy it. And those are the games that pop into my head as really having that problem. Obviously, some games and game types can kind of work both ways. Speaking of games that are coming out soon, I think Borderlands mostly works solo or co-op, depending on how you want to play it. But very often when you're playing these games, they're really built for co-op.
Gotcha. And by the way, first of all, good morning, chat. What's going on, everyone? I forgot to say that because I'm completely off my game this morning. And Boxenberger in the chat, Mr. Archimedes, reminded me that it was 2 days ago when I was on his show, The World of Gaming. We were talking about Starfield and building, and I had already forgotten that because that was a couple days ago, and my mind is mush right now. Yeah. But yeah, that's a good example. That's a good example, Rick. I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, Travis, Dan.
I'm sure Dan has a whole list of things.
Yeah, I mean, I do. I mean, it's hard to narrow it down to one. Like poor menu optimization.
Battlefield.
Yeah.
The only one I know is jump scares, right? You're out on jump scares.
Jump scares gone. Any kind of multiplayer, So, but really, like, when a game, like, I'm all about, holding my hand through a game. I'm fine with it. At least show me, point me in the general right direction. Like, you have to go north. When you don't tell me anything, it drives me absolutely crazy. Like, hey, there's this guy, his name is Harry, and he's about 6'2", and he's got a red hat on. Yeah, you gotta go find him for the next quest. And it's a gigantic open world, and there's nothing to point you anywhere near in the right direction. It's not like, oh, he's a gambler, maybe he's near a casino or something. Just something, even something minor, would be nice. But I'm not a big fan of the completely hands-off approach. Because maybe I was back, 10, 15 years ago. That was more. But now I don't have the time, man. I just don't have the time to sit here and, look for every single little thing. A lot of people complain about like the map systems on a lot of these open worlds where it's completely littered with stuff. I'm just like, yeah, you know what? That's fine with me. I mean, good. Now I know where to go at least, if I'm completely lost, and having options like that, some games do that where you can turn off certain things or turn on certain things or different ways to explore games. I think that's a better option than just either, one way, let's say like Horizon, Forbidden West, where it's just like complete out of control hand-holding. And then, there's a, I don't know, from what I hear, like
you can use Elden Ring here. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't played it, but I've seen people talk about it like that. No way, no chance. Or Tunic, people have talked about that a little bit, where it's like, there is no language. There is no, you just kind of have to piece everything together through puzzles and stuff, and that can be fun, but also it's time consuming. And the older I get and the less time I have to do this stuff, the more I need that help. And I'm not one bit ashamed of it. Never will be. So,
by the way, anyone who's played Tunic, am I the only one who played it? And you get your first like item, I think you get the stick and you get something else, and it comes up in the weird like glyph language.
Yeah.
And I went into my menu and like, do I have something selected wrong? Like, obviously it's not supposed to be just.
It was like that in the demo too. I really thought it was just, oh, this is just a demo thing. So, they just haven't translated it to like English or something yet. They're not at that stage of development, and turns out they were. So.
No, I did not think the glyphs were a real language. I did not think they were Sumerian or something that they were throwing down. You can actually, use the instruction book to kind of start putting them together with the things that are obvious from those glyphs.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, Dan, I'll just I think this may be the fourth or fifth time I'll say this, but don't play Elden Ring.
Yeah.
It's so funny. Your description was so dead on what Elden Ring is. It was just very amusing.
And also why I like it and
why I love it. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
All right.
Speaking of which, I'm going to get back to playing that today.
I think the dividing lines are properly set here.
Right. Yeah. This is a East-West civil war we have going on. Yeah, so I guess I'm kind of the opposite of Dan, which is there are almost no things that will make me not play a game. Like I'm really open as a gamer. Like I'll play sports games and puzzle games and platformers and fighting games and all that stuff. That said, I do have a ton of pet peeves, but I don't know if they're like foundational blocks. There's no foundational blocks that'll really turn me off. Like I love building things. I love Sims. Like really anything you could think of, if you throw it at me, I'll be like, yeah, it could be done right. I want to see what you have, but I don't have any like genres that turn me off. I do have like kind of like one thing is I kind of don't like it. It's definitely like a turnoff if a game doesn't support gamepad controls, like or if the gamepad controls are supported poorly. You know, like if you're playing a game on PC and you know, one of the biggest lies about PC is that you can play on gamepad and it works fine. It's just like not true. Like,
it is not plug and play.
Yeah, most games do not work well, or if they do support gamepad, the gamepad controls are like very imprecise and like clearly not worked out. That definitely like bothers me when I you know I can't play a game the way that I want to. And you know, there's a few other things where it's like. Basically, if it's done poorly, then I'll have a problem with it, right? But there's nothing that really. I'm kind of anti-Dan in this way. Like I really, you tell me what type of game you want to make, and I'll tell you if you did it well, in my opinion, right? Like if you made it entertaining for me. But I think anything can be entertaining. I mean, I previewed a game I never thought I would have liked, Farming Simulator 22, and that game like surprised me. I had a ton of fun playing that game, and I'd never played a game like that before. And you know, if you look for the fun in a game, I think you can find it. If you just have to go in with that mindset.
Yeah, that's pretty true. I think. Yeah. I think we've gotten to a point in the industry where we're spoiled for choice, right? When we were younger, it was like you got a new game. It didn't matter what it was, you had a new game, and that's the game you were going to play because you didn't really have many options. And now it's just like there's just endless games, so you can get really picky.
My main Super Nintendo game was an economic simulator for like 2 years.
This does not surprise me, Rick.
Well, I'm just saying, no, it was. I mean, it was a function of both me, of course, but also like just what we got. So you know, I played Aerobiz for like the first 3 years.
I remember that game.
The Super Nintendo's lifespan. That was my main game.
Yeah. I played SimCity on Super Nintendo like crazy. I mean. City after city after city. Yeah, great game. Yeah. Bowser attacks. Watch out for him. All right, boys. Let's. Why don't we jump over to what we're currently playing? Because I think that ties into some of the conversation I wanted to have about a couple games. Before we do that, we do have a super chat from our good friend, Mr. Forte, which looks like our. Oh, okay, there it is. I was gonna say our chat's all screwy here. Sorry.
There it is, man. Gaming Forte, 499 super chat. Thank you, sir. Morning, gentlemen. I'm here for another great conversation featuring the real Tie Guy Travis, not the buttoned up one.
Yeah, I can talk to this. So this is actually
okay. Give us the inside joke, Scoop.
This is a little bit of an inside joke, which is people who play online with me are consistently shocked by my fact that who I am when I'm just hanging out in party chat is not who I am when I'm on a show such as this. Just because I tend to.
Are you suggesting that you get a little bluer, Mr. Travis?
Yeah, a little bit.
I am scandalized.
Yeah, you know, I use a little bit of profanity when we're beating our head against the wall on a Destiny raid or something like that,
or a Halo match.
Yeah, and it regularly makes people laugh. Just the amount of shit talk and stuff that I engage in when we're beginning. And, yeah, it's very fun for me because I get to shock people with you know, a little more casual of Travis. But yeah, gaming Forte is regularly like, geez, who are you? Is this the same guy? So
that's one of my favorite parts of all this. The pre and post shows are sometimes different.
That's true. In fact, I still remember this when we first started Bitcast. It was just me and Bert. We did our first episodes were god awful. But because we were literally stiff as boards, you know what I mean? Like we had never done this before. And one of the guys who we were gaming with at the time, who we gamed, you know, lots of drunken nights and crazy nights gaming and chatting and stuff. He's like, I really need to see Saturday Night Ains, not broadcast Ains on these podcasts. That would help you a lot. And I was like, yeah, I got to be careful. There's a line there somewhere, but you know, it took a while to kind of find it.
Middle ground.
Yeah, exactly. But Forte, thank you, brother. Good to see you this morning, man. And Gecko Gamer in the house again.
Yeah, man. €5. Any thoughts on simulator sandboxes like Kerbal Space Program? They seem to tap into exploration like Elden Ring, but with a lot of realism in its mechanics. Thank you,
I
Gecko
played
Gamer.
Kerbal. It's great.
Yeah, my
I
kids
have a hard
love
time
Kerbal.
finding the drive without a little bit more direction on those kinds of things, but they're very cool.
I mean, is that like kind of No Man's Sky-ish, or is I don't know. I've never played it, so I've seen it.
It's a physics mechanics type game. It's very cool. It's very cool.
It's more of like you have to work hard and figure out how to basically launch your spacecraft successfully because there's physics modeling involved with getting
Like Outer Wilds.
No.
Outer Wilds is like 2% of the physics of Kerbal Space.
Yeah. Kerbal is like
this is more like Bridge Constructor. If you've ever played that series, like it's got a little bit more of like a building and learning and that sort of thing. It borders on edutainment actually, and I really like those games. And if you've ever played Kerbal Space Program, which is like a really good simulator, I think it's easy to say like, oh yeah, those games aren't for me, or there's no such thing as a good one. But if you've ever played a bad one, and I have, then your respect for Kerbal goes up like a ton because those games are super hard to make, and like hats off to them for making a good one. I tend to agree with Hogue. Sometimes it's hard to find the motivation in those games. The good ones do give you like goals and stuff to actually like milestones to hit, and then also like achievements. I feel like are an evergreen, mine for things to do. It's like, oh, I want to accomplish that thing. Achievements matter a lot more in those games because they kind of can serve as your in-game milestones for what you try to achieve.
That's right. I think that makes a lot of sense. I'm as someone that doesn't really check on trophies or achievements or Steam achievements or anything else. That makes a lot more sense to me. That's how you get some motivation in a game like that. Because I'm just not looking at those lists very often.
Yep.
I don't, except for certain games. Sure. Like my big use case for like when I go for gamer score on Xbox is like. If I like the game so much and I'm kind of done with everything and I want reasons to keep playing, then I'll open up the list and I'll start looking at like, okay, how can I justify playing this even more aside from just doing another run. But yeah, some games it matters more than others, and I feel like those games it definitely does. Like you're like, well, what do I do? There's no like tasks, so here's your list of things to try to go for. So
makes sense. Gotcha. Maybe I'll play Kerbal.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say
kids should for sure. It's super good. It's like the old Bottle Rocket Science Project.
It is. Yeah, my kids loved it. Right?
Throw a keyboard through the monitor if I just put Kerbal in front of them. But maybe.
So thank you, Gecko, for the super chat, and he also says it is in the. They also say it is in the Humble Bundle for Ukraine right now. So there's if you weren't aware, there's a big one. Yeah, there's a really good bundle right now where you can buy like I think it's 6 games for a cheap price, and all the revenue or profits go to supporting Ukraine. So check that out if you.
I saw the Long Dark in there. That's one of my personal favorites.
Is it really? That was one of the very first games that I spoke to the developer and did an article on for Season Gaming like 5 years ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah, when we had no audience whatsoever, they gave me the code and talked to me, and yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, survival crafters, I like them, but it's also like a like you feel like eating something only occasionally. I only have an appetite for a survival crafter once in a while, but I really like the Long Dark as an example of the form, definitely.
Yeah. That's fair. That's fair, Hogue. Yeah, it's like not I feel like you'd get too stressed out if it was your forever game. At least that's how I feel. Some survival crafters are. I can play Minecraft forever, which is technically a survival crafter if you play those.
Long Dark and Subnautica, I think, are my favorites of those.
Yeah,
it's cool. All right, so currently playing. So I want to. I'm going to kick us off with Gran Turismo 7 because I want to talk about some of the things that have spread around the Twitterverse and online, and I know VGC was reporting on this, which really kind of inflamed the topic. Which I can take or leave. Obviously you get the hits for it, but I'm always weird. I don't know about you guys, but I'm always weird in games where they're like, to buy everything in this game, you'd have to spend $3,000. And it's like, well, that's not a fair representation of what's actually going on in the game. They did it with Assassin's Creed. They did it with Halo. They're now doing it with Gran Turismo. And it's like, So let me say this about Gran Turismo. And I'm writing an article on it, not a review, but just an open article about some aspects of it because I feel it's worth talking about because I feel like there's a very good game here with fundamentally, and again, we joke every time I bring up Car Guy, Travis, I go back to our conversation. But, in all seriousness, I have been around cars my whole life. I have raced, on all kinds of different tracks. And it's a part of my thing that I love, right? And car culture. And so what I look for out of Gran Turismo is a game that has semi-realistic racing, and because it's not, they call it a sim, but it's not a true sim, you know what I mean? But it's video game sim, and good physics modeling, attention to detail, right? And when you look at this game and you start to really get into it and put some time into it, it has all those things in spades. I was racing yesterday, some awesome races on real courses, and it was just fantastic. It's fantastic. I was like, this is really, really well done, and the cars feel like they should. It's easy to make mistakes. You have all kinds of ability to turn assists on and off, which most racing games do. But I can tell you from experience, this is much more on point than some of the other racing games, that you can get. And anyway, there's a really good game here. Now, I do have qualms with it. It's not perfect. I don't like the way they approach some things, but that's a whole other topic. But I feel like this microtransaction conversation around Gran Turismo, one, it's a little overblown. And two, it's detracting from the conversation about the game itself, right? And I just don't like to see that in general. It's like, first of all, you've got, as usual, we joke about this all the time, but you've got a lot of people commenting on Gran Turismo who obviously haven't played it, right? They have no clue as to what's actually in the game. They're just going off the.
That never stops anybody.
No, not at all. And so, yeah, I would say the rate at which you earn credits, it can be a little slow. It can. Go ahead, Rick, because I know you're playing it.
I talked about this in my video, so I went over this. Like, one of the issues I have, and I mostly agree with you on this, Ains, is that there were two things that happened simultaneously, right? Because that patch was changing the microtransactions and giving us dirt tires, as we talked about before the show. Right. It also went bad. It also was a bad patch that caused them trouble for 32 hours, something like that. Yeah, and so you had the kind of simultaneous reasons to hate on Gran Turismo, which is also the current flagship PlayStation exclusive. And we know how that goes online with console warriors. So you had all these things happen at once. The microtransactions, to me, they were upfront, at least after the review period, by the time I could get to play it, where you get the credits and then it says at the bottom, it's some euphemism, top up your credits, top off your wallet, something like that, like you're filling gas. And in some respects, it feels like filling gas now. But when you actually look at the numbers and everything else, I think if you wanted to be devil's advocate here and not just jump on the outrage train, what they actually describe in that patch makes a modicum of sense to me. That if their data is showing that the times for the races are wildly off, and that means that you, in order to really min-max your time, you're essentially playing the same race 100 times. That isn't the experience they want you to have. Now, could they have changed that by raising everything else up? They could have. Could they have balanced it in a different way? Yes. But I looked at what happened there and I said, I would love if they actually did a white paper. Like, here's the data we have. Here's why 65 became 50. Here's why this 65 became 30. Here's what we can see. And, talk to me like I'm an adult. I think you'd get further than we're going to strip all these numbers. And it looks for all the world, or if you're going to take a very superficial view as, hey, we're selling these now for cash money and we were going to reduce all these things. And then they come out with the note that says what I said earlier, which is, well, people are getting unbalanced with actually playing Gran Turismo because, these were set wrong. I am sympathetic, but also at the same time, it's a rough position to put your developer in when you're going to sell those credits because it's easy enough to say you're now developing for those microtransactions, whether or not it's true. And I think because you're in that situation, you really owe, on a communications level, more information. Because, hey, you might not be. you might still be designing your game in the way that makes sense to you, but without more information, I totally am sympathetic to the people that jump on and say, nah, that's a cash grab.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. And I think that there's probably some aspects here that would hold a little water. I think it's a little disingenuous for people to just jump to that conclusion. Not that doesn't happen all the time, like we joke about, but to jump to that conclusion without any real data, which is really your point, right? Really trying to see what the true outcomes of people's playtime actually is and what it's resulting in.
Well, I think VGC did it wrong. I mean, I called them out in a little ways. I like VGC as an outlet in general, but I think they do this sometimes. And they say, okay, it's $40 to get 4 million credits. So all of these things are always $40. And then these various cars are going to take this time. And they don't give any credit to the fact that all we're actually talking about are things that you can earn in game. Yeah. So I am always more lenient towards it's not a specialty currency that locks out something into a cash store. It's like, grinding is a very interesting concept, and maybe one we should have a half episode on at some point, because if you're enjoying the game, I really struggle with the concept of grinding. Yeah. Are you playing Gran Turismo to get a car, or are you playing Gran Turismo to play Gran Turismo? Because those to me are distinct. And if you report on it only as, I really need that Lotus, then you're missing out, and you probably shouldn't be playing it anyway, because it sounds like you're not enjoying it the way you would hope to. And I might like it more than you do, Ains. Like Gran Turismo, this is my favorite racing game in this kind of racing on courses, not Horizon, in a long time. Cool. Every time I pop in there, I wind up playing for 2 hours. It's wild to me. But I totally get why people come down on them. I just think it's a little bit harsh, and it was doubled up on. The loss of 32 hours with terrible communication. I mean, god-awful communication from Polyphony.
Zero. I mean, it was lack of communication, right?
Well, not only that, but their promise was actually, for those of you that don't know this thing went down when they tried to put up this patch. And then a lot of people found out that single player was completely...
I found out the hard way.
Yeah, they needed the servers for single player. I did as well. Not to keep plugging my video, but one of the things I went over was how it is presented in the store, and how there isn't an asterisk that talks about solo needing online. And then somebody points me to the physical box, which apparently has a tag that's a little bit more obvious, that says like most features require internet or something like that, which doesn't appear on the digital side at all. And I said, Sony's going to have me on the biggest blacklist in the world after the Horizon video, and after being like, you're advertising this wrong, because this was a surprise to me, and not like I have every bit of knowledge in the world, but I'm pretty tuned into this stuff, and I had no idea that you had attached solo so much to needing a server to check in on things.
No, me neither. In fact, I turned it on, and you got the clocking message, and the maintenance was still down, and I'm like, okay, play offline. I was like, yeah, cool, I'll play offline. And then you get there, and you can literally just do straight races. There's like nothing. There's nothing you can do, and I'm like, what is this nonsense? So
that service is hard. The service is hard, you guys.
But Travis, I don't want to do this for another 2 hours.
I was gonna say, don't you two start again.
But like, Gran Turismo doesn't have to be games as a service. Like, there's no concept of the solo campaign that requires you to treat it as a SaaS product.
And and yet it is.
Okay, but we've already crossed the Rubicon when you get to, hey, games as a service is hard. We have to go back to the other side of the Rubicon and say, what? Why did you do that way?
Like, I 100% agree that maybe GT7 should not have chosen that model. I think lots of people do it going, it's easy, right? Just change the way you deliver content. And I'm like, yo, like you are, this is why I laugh whenever people are like, oh yeah, like, it's not like a specific type of game. It's just the delivery model. And I'm like, no.
To me, that
you have to build the communications, like you guys were saying, the whole communication. The fact that the PR side of this was really bad, like that's because they clearly weren't prepared for this sort of product or this kind of model.
Yeah, GT. As Rick said, if you're not fully aware, GT was down over a day, completely with no communication. It was just we found a bug in our update. Maintenance is going to take longer, and then people just kept trying to play it all day, and it just never worked.
When they actually they did the wrong thing on a communication basis, because they didn't just say we're working on it and we'll figure it out and you'll never hear from us again. Their first and only communication is, we will let you know when we think we'll be able to get this thing up. We'll actually have another tweet that will tell you projection. So what you have to have at that point is your live services, community, whatever, your intern with the Twitter profile every couple hours going, we're working on it. We're working on it. We're working on it. We're working on it. And we'll literally let you know when we think it's going to be 6 a.m. or not. Instead, nothing. And then it's back up, which is the opposite of what you promised. We weren't kept in the loop at all.
Yeah.
So
it was bad. And that's obviously a very separate conversation from the microtransaction.
So I don't think it's a separate conversation, because I really do think the reason it's tied to the server, the reason it's a games as a service at all, is to be able to check on any ways that people could be cheating on credits, because that's their main thing that they're selling you. So I think a lot of that lives in the same conversation, that it wouldn't have been built that way if the business model wasn't to sell you credits. So I don't think agree. They go together.
Yeah, I don't know if that's true, because like there's lots of games that have that model in single player, like Assassin's Creed, basically any Ubisoft game, and you can play those offline, and they don't.
But they also sell you credits, and they also sell you accelerators.
They do, but
they do, but they don't go offline when they patch and update. They're not really games as a service in the same way. They're kind of.
But I think in Gran Turismo 7's case, and this is speculation, I don't know for sure, just knowing from a game design standpoint.
None of us are there.
Yeah, so you have multiplayer and you have GT Sport, right? And GT Sport is an aspect of GT7. Like everything they built with GT Sport is included in GT7 as a separate thing.
It's their fancy racing, yes.
They're really, because Gran Turismo takes it very seriously, and they have an online league and international championships for Gran Turismo racing, right? And GT Sport builds a profile of you as you play the game. You can go to your page and see all of your statistics, how you race, what licenses you have, how many miles you've covered every day, all this stuff, right? And that's all done in real time as you're playing. In addition to that, the most interesting thing, and it can be good or bad depending on how you look at it, and it ties into the currency conversation about Gran Turismo, is that the used car shop and the legend offerings, which are these rare, legendary, expensive cars, but the used car shop and stuff, they are actually updating in real time. So as people in the world buy a certain used car, it's finite. There's only so many of them. So they're trying to
seeing the sold out signs. I thought it was just faked. That's some kind of data collection.
Yeah. So what they're trying to do, and Yamuchi, I don't know if I pronounce his name properly, but the director of the game of Polyphony Digital, basically said that they're trying to create an actual real world simulation of the car market, and that's why like an R33 Skyline, right, will be worth a lot more than. I don't know. I'm not making a good example, but certain cars will be worth a lot more.
I can't do that at all. So,
because they're in real life, they're sought after cars. So, for instance, an E30 M3, the first generation M3 Evo, is worth like 3 times what an E46 M3 is, even though the E46 M3 is a higher performer and newer, because the E30 is really sought after, right? Like in real life.
Yeah, I mean, collectors markets.
Yeah, so those prices and the availability of those cars is in fluctuation, and so between sport, multiplayer, and the car market, it feels like Gran Turismo was built in a way where it's always passing data for every player's journey as they play the game.
Well, so okay, first of all, I didn't know half of that, so that's very interesting to me that there's a website that you can go to like Destiny or something like that. I will say this: benefit of the doubt. Full devil's advocate that this is a totally benign set of circumstances on the part of Polyphony. Sometimes you can have a creative mind or somebody that builds something that gets too invested in whatever aspect of it that it is, whether that's making a product, whether it's making a video game, something else. That sounds to me like the actual use case for the average consumer of Gran Turismo 7 kind of fell by the wayside for wanting to do things that maybe weren't strictly necessary to actually achieve what Gran Turismo 7 wants to do.
Agreed.
Agreed.
And they could have segmented it off too. They could have made part of the game accessible, and
some of that to me is the cost of doing business. Like I really like Gran Turismo 7 for how unique it is, how much it cares about cars in a way that I don't. And so some of that is like, okay, I get if you're going to have kind of a really passionate, very focused person doing these kinds of things, maybe you take the good and you take the bad. But
taking both, and then you have.
Yeah, Gran Turismo 7. Exactly, Travis. So
anyone under 30 didn't get that at all.
Hey, so devil's advocate, that's useful information. Certainly the average consumer, it looks terrible. It was a bad day.
Bad day.
On top of a patch that was, hey, 1, we're going to change your credits, and 2, I joke about the dirt tires, but did you waste your time trying to get golds in almost all of the licenses? Then we're sorry, we had the settings wrong, which is totally fine. That's the kind of thing that happens in a video game. But you put them all together, and it's like, all right,
Yeah.
Gran Turismo, all right.
Yeah. You haven't had the best launch with a game that is fundamentally quite good, as you said, or we both said. Yeah, I mean, once you get into the heart of the game, it's excellent, and there's some really good parts of it. But
can I actually go back to something Hogue said about
of course,
grind? Because actually, if I had to say what you just asked her at the top of the show, what is like a game mechanic that you can't get behind? And something I complain about a lot is grind, because of the types of games I tend to end up reviewing.
I was going to say, someone
you've been
who
filling
has
Destiny
thousands
bars your whole
of
life.
Destiny,
right? Yeah,
complaining about grind.
Oh no, but I complain about the grind of Destiny constantly.
True.
To Hogue's point, in a certain sense, if you are feeling the grind about something, then maybe the game has more core problems. But a good game for 20 hours can become a bad game in 80 hours really quickly if you're forced to replay the same content over and over again. It just depends on the game. And so one of my pet peeves around games is when they put their best content at the end of a really long grind, and it kind of makes you resent it, even though it ends up being good in the end, just because it makes you do so much to get there. And Destiny's a great example. They'll like give you an awesome campaign, and they'll put like 40 hours of grind between you and the rest of the good content. And it's just like, what are you doing in that middle time? Well, you're replaying the same stuff you did during the main campaign. You're replaying the old Strikes and Crucible maps you've played 100 times. And it's just like, oh my God, dude, just like, don't make me work for it as much. Just give me the good content. Why am I having to just do this? And the answer a lot of times is like player engagement statistics, daily log on times, not losing the game after a couple days and just going and playing something else. And I'm like, yo, this is not the way. Like, another great example.
All you hardcore players have ruined it for the rest of us. I mean,
for sure.
It's so funny. I watch this with World of Warcraft. I watch this with Destiny and all these things. It's like, I'm never going to get anywhere near half of this stuff.
Yeah.
And they'll be complaining on Reddit like on day 2. And I'll be like, okay.
Sure. And I think that building the game for the people that want to grind is a like classic mistake of game design, because they'll say, oh, well, if we just build the grind and gate the content at the end, then people will be forced to play it, right? And it's like, no, you'll just lose 98% of the player base. And I think the good model and what Destiny has started to embrace and other games like it is that you make all the content accessible, but then you add an optional grind at the end for the people who really want to min-max and drive up their stats and get that extra like 5% of power out of the game. Then you put the grind there, and it's like fine, because none of the content is hidden there. It's just an optional grind. But yeah, they can really screw up a game by adding just some optional grind. And Destiny's a great example of it. What's another game?
I totally agree with that, Travis. The one thing I would say is I think people jump on grind too quickly.
Agree.
I don't think it's difficult to get to 1 million credits in Gran Turismo. It'll take some time, but hopefully you're enjoying yourself. And I felt this a lot with my RPGs. So people that know, I'm a big JRPG fan. And one of my earliest was Dragon Warrior / Dragon.
Yeah.
Right? And that was basically built on grind. Like you couldn't cross the bridge until you had spent a solid 3 hours killing slimes. And that's kind of where I grew up. So as so many of these opinions often are, it's where you started gaming and where you live. I've never minded that. I've never minded that kind of power crawl. And then, you cross a bridge and you get these kind of victory conditions from a Dragon Warrior, Dragon Quest. But in the modern era, that kind of design is very heavily frowned upon. And they like very smooth curves. And to me, it's like, yes, smoothness is nice. You can lose some of that value of finding victory and overcoming obstacles if you make it too smooth. And so I've constantly had that conversation with people, which is like, I like a little more pushback. And difficulty settings can do that in some respects, but sometimes you have to have a design focused on that. So I think I'm a little reflexive.
For sure.
And when people say grind, I'm like, okay, Let's analyze what's happening here.
Well, there's a good grind and there's a bad grind. Like Yakuza Like a Dragon was a game that had kind of a bit of a grind if you wanted to do the end game stuff. But like, I love that game so much, I happily did it. And so it's like, it kind of just depends. But like I think the way you know that there is such thing as a bad grind is the fact that game designers seem to know what the right length is. And sometimes they'll charge you to get the right grind. So like Assassin's Creed, they'll have, double XP is something you buy. And then if you actually buy the version of the game that has double XP, because I've reviewed Assassin's Creed games and they give it to you by default, right? Like, here's the double XP. And then you play it and you go, oh, this feels like the right amount of progression. Like I have to grind a little, but it's not crazy. And then if you take that away for the base, the lowly base players, then it feels very bad. And it's like, it incentivizes the developer to make the game boring, because then you're more likely to pay for the double XP to get by it. And that's like a huge like game design and almost like morality question of like, are you going to design a game poorly and like be incentivized to make like a boring grind just to like get people to pay to take it away from you? That's like, I think we could do a whole episode about grind. Like it's such a fascinating conversation.
That's the absolute question, because at the end of the day, the Gran Turismo articles come down to, do you think that car would be $1 million instead of $3 million if they weren't selling credits?
Correct.
Yeah. Do you honestly think that that's what would happen?
Correct. Yeah. And also the grind and the microtransaction conversation are almost the same to me, because it's like, it's not is the grind or microtransactions disgusting necessarily. It's more, do you need all of this stuff in order for the game to be enjoyable or for you to get the like everything out of it, right? Like if people say like, oh, it costs $10,000 if you want to buy every skin in Halo Infinite, it's like, okay, well, who wants every skin in Halo Infinite? You can only wear one at a time. You're clearly not meant to own them all. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't impact the game to not have that. And I would put Grand Theft Auto. I would put Gran Turismo. Same acronym. I would put Gran Turismo in the same camp, actually, of like, you don't need all of it to enjoy the game. So I don't think it's a fair thing to be like, oh, it costs $3,000 to buy it all.
So the invites are weird. I mean, I don't know if you knew that this was happening in Gran Turismo, but they have invites for cards that are only going to be available to you for 2 weeks. Yeah. And you get this kind of battle pass feel. Like I best be playing Gran Turismo if I want that 177 or whatever.
That's the game as a service part.
And it's like, oh, it does feel just a little bit icky. You're like, I see you. I see what you're doing, game.
Yeah. It's the save the box, the cereal box tops. The contest ends, you got to get 30 of them. So you're just eating a ton of cereal.
So I
McDonald's Monopoly game.
Yeah, I currently have one for Carrera GT, which is one of my favorite cars of all time. It's $2 million, and I'm like, and it expires I think Friday, and I'm like, there's no way. Like, there's no way.
Once you cross that threshold, you're out. Yeah, but it's like, oh man, if I pressed it.
But anyway, we've got some super chats I need to get to that we're behind on. Bear with me here. Dan, knock it off.
What am I doing? Oh, hey, Luke. Xbox Expansion Pass, $2 super chat. Cast Co-op, Bitcast, XEP, Rock. Trophy room is mid. That's fair.
It's fair. Agreed. Yeah, very fair. Thank you, Luke. Gecko Gamer back in the house with another super chat.
Yeah, man. GT7 should have a premium currency in order to not make the normal game too grindy.
So that's kind of part of the conversation too. Is I saw people bringing up, and thank you, Gecko. You're very generous with the super chat. Super appreciative, man. Yeah, man. Really appreciate that. I saw people bringing up the VIP thing in Forza, which is fair, right? Because you can buy VIP access in Forza Horizon, which is if you buy the premium add-on, it's $40. If you buy the Ultimate Edition, it's whatever it is, it's more. But basically, with VIP, you earn double credits in your races, right? And obviously, that changes the whole outlook of how you can buy cars in that game. Now, I would say, because I went back into Forza yesterday for the first time in months just to take a look. And that game, it's funny. I think I was talking to Elu about this. It feels like Gran Turismo, you need to earn at a rate a little faster, right? Feels like Forza is almost all the way on the opposite end of the spectrum. It's like you can play for an hour and you've got 10 Ferraris, and it's like there's no sense of earning the best cars in that game because you just kind of have them. And it's
you're
like
getting double XP. I'd be willing to bet.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You're getting double credits.
Oh, I am. But even outside of that, you have the super spins and you're just handed a lot in that game, which it all depends on what your personal preference is. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing that Gran Turismo wants to make certain cars feel special. right? And exclusive, and feel like you should work for them. And when you own one, you're part of a group that now owns this awesome car, just like in real life. But at the same time, there's a balance there, and you do have to remember this is a video game, right? There's certain cars that I adore in real life that I'll never own because they're unattainable to someone like me, right? I don't need to simulate that in the video game I'm playing, right? Let me own the car. So it is kind of interesting, and that's what Mitchie Dies a lot said in our chat too. He said it's digital, there is no shortage, right? It's a game, not real life. And
with NFTs, maybe there is a digital shortage. Do we
Don't
know?
start with that. Don't start with that.
Now that'll be a post. That'll be a post. You'll get one of those messages in GT7. It's like, well, because he ends his post when they're trying to apologize with something like, "I wish I could share with you all our plans.
Yes,
but we have some economy stuff that we're working on." It's like, okay.
NFTs. It's coming. Yeah. It's going to be huge, guys.
Don't do it.
You're going to have a middle-class car collector simulator 2022. That's Gran Turismo.
But it's an interesting conversation. It's a shame that I was about to say it's a shame that this has happened to Gran Turismo at launch because there's a good game here, as we've already said. But this was really it was brought upon themselves, right? I mean, they designed the game this way, and the issues they've had, are part of the game's design. So
and it's rare to see a patch do that. All right. I mean, just talking about the actual coding and things, and God knows I couldn't do it personally, but we are blessed regardless of how you feel about the economics models, you aren't seeing patches die and kill something for a day very often anymore.
No, we haven't seen something like that I can remember in quite a while, that long, unexpectedly. But it's kind of weird. Yeah, they said they had a bug. It was like a critical thing they didn't find in QA. And it's not to get corporate, but I have experience in QA and UAT, and it's just like if there's a bug that bad, you're not QAing properly, you're not testing properly. You've got to rethink your process, because if it's that critical, you've missed it. And that's
you could tell they were trying to get out in front of something worse, because one of the things they do reference is that they thought it was frying saves. Which you want to talk about some articles.
Yes.
If you let out a patch and it fries people's Gran Turismo saves,
there'd be a serious problem.
Well, as a games as a service aficionado, let me just say, I'm really excited for you guys to get your inevitable reparations. They're going to give you some sort of in-game currency very soon for that outage. Because that's the move, man. Just wait.
That's what the last paragraph. The last paragraph may be mistranslated, but in his message is something along the lines of, "We're looking at what we can give you."
Okay.
Didn't even read it. And I already knew that was going to happen because I've been here.
So I expected it when the game came back up. I'm like, they better have some credit or something.
They weren't ready. Like the story of this is, it might be a games as a service. Travis might be right. Polyphony is not a games as a service studio, or hasn't been before now. Correct. And they're like, Jesus, it's all dying. The entire boat is on fire. And so the message is like, we're looking at what we can give you.
Yep.
Stay tuned.
I think you're right, Hogue. I think they are not a games as a service company, and they thought it would be an easy switch to hit to make it that model. And this is why Sony bought Bungie, right? That this is the move. This is what they want to fix at their company, that they don't know how to do this yet.
Then they'll just vault the cars after you buy them later on.
For sure, yeah. They'll call it the garage. They call it long-term parking.
They will call it that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you're not far off. You have to get to a certain point in the game to even know that this legend thing exists, and it's several to 10 hours into the game, and then the legend cars, there's only 5 of them at a time. 2, when I was presenting them, are already sold out, and then the other 3 start at 3 million. So I'm not even close to being able to buy one of them yet. And
casual.
That's true. So it's definitely interesting. By the way, we missed one super chat I need to get to here.
All right. Whoa. What is that? Sainu.com?
Sainu. Yeah, we'll just say Sainu. Sorry if we pronounce it wrong.
Yeah, sorry, man. Is that Australian 299 or what is that? It was A.
No, it's not Australian, and I don't know what just a blank A is. I don't know what that is. So if anyone knows, tell us. But regardless, thank you.
Yeah. So, single player and multiplayer, everything needs to be free of cheating. For single player feed, multiplayer, everything needs to be free of cheating.
Right. When the single player goes into the multiplayer, you have more concerns.
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly. Sure. I think he's referencing things because someone else in the chat said something about offloading your data basically to and then re-uploading when it reconnects basically to make it look like to basically
Yep, they reference that.
manipulate your capabilities, your stats, etc. Yeah, exactly. So thank you very much. Please let us know what that currency is because I honestly have not seen that before.
No idea.
Yeah, but thank you very much. Appreciate it, brother. All right. That was far longer on Gran Turismo, as usual, than I expected to spend on our
It was
currently
just what
playing.
Dane's playing today.
I was going to comment on Horizon. I will just say this about Horizon. I've determined after maybe 10 hours, I'm into the Forbidden West now. I've done a few missions in the Forbidden West, gotten leveled up, a few pieces of gear and stuff. I've determined that playing 200 hours of Elden Ring and then trying to go to Horizon is a mistake. I do not recommend it.
I told you needed that palate cleanser.
I did say bouncing between them was very hard. Man. I'm on tape saying bouncing between them was hard.
Yes, you both have said that, and Dan, you're exactly right because it's just not doing it. And you know how much I love Horizon, and how much I was looking forward to this game. Pumped for it. It's every time I played it, I would play it for about 45 minutes to an hour. It would feel like a chore, and then I would turn it off. So what I'm gonna do is
sad.
I know, me too. So I'm putting it aside. I'm gonna come back to it in
play it in June.
A few months. Yeah, summertime. I'll come back to it fresh. Right now, to your point, Dan, Gran Turismo is the perfect, completely different game than Elden Ring.
I'll stop all that stuff. I've been running over hobos for the past 3 days in GTA 5, and it's been fantastic. You want a palate cleanser? Go play that. It's $10 on the PlayStation. Easy purchase. I don't care how many times you bought it before. Easy purchase.
I am going to actually.
The world's worst refresh.
I am actually going to buy it.
Yeah.
I also
the DualSense actually works really well with it.
The 60 frames is worth it. Honestly.
Oh yeah.
I'll buy that game every time it comes out. It's one of my favorites.
I haven't played it. I haven't played it since 2013, since it launched on 360.
Oh, it's craziness.
I have.
Yeah, no, it's a good refresh for that price.
I was gonna say, Travis, you're not alone because I literally have the Xbox One version when they re-released it on my shelf, sealed. It's still in the plastic.
So here's the thing: I play through it every time I buy it. So I've played through the campaign multiple times. So it's like, I will at least say that I've played through it multiple times.
Yeah, no, I went full Dan on it. Just buying it for no reason.
That's a good one. Yeah, I can't recommend Stranger of Paradise as a palate cleanser for Elden Ring.
You made a very controversial post this week, by the way, sir.
I thought that's what I'm about.
Of course. But
by the way, $$ is Australian. It's just a different way of abbreviating it, apparently.
Instead of AUS.
Well, that's weird because we've gotten Australian super chats before, and it has said AUS on StreamYard. That's why I didn't think that's what it was. Oh well. Okay. So Travis, I don't know if you missed this, by the way, but Rick earlier, maybe you saw it. Rick earlier this week said he's enjoying Stranger of Paradise, this game that's getting some people seem to like somewhat, but he's enjoying it more than Elden Ring. So tell us about it.
I think it's distinct. So Stranger Paradise is what I've described as one of my favorite experiences of the year, primarily because it is as equally wonderful as it is horrible. And the mix here is just really, really interesting.
You're talking about the writing, I assume?
Well, the writing, see, I think I understand what they're going for with the writing. It's actually a little bit like, I don't know if you remember a game from 2016, I think, called World of Final Fantasy, which essentially tries to take the shit out of Final Fantasy a little bit. It's almost the same kind of concept, but just from a different angle. So the writing is clearly making fun of the seriousness with which Final Fantasy is portrayed. And it's not great, but that goes along with what's not great, which is, like, I don't know how many outsourced studios they used or what, but based on what camera angle you're looking at in a cutscene, it could be modern looking. It could look like Final Fantasy VII Remastered. It could look like a Dreamcast game, like between camera shots. And it's just really wild there. But what is the most important thing is that its battle system is ridiculous good. It is fantastic in capturing kind of some of the conceits of Final Fantasy, switching between jobs, working with magic as well as melee, putting these famous monsters in and then, suplexing them, Bane striking them, whatever it is you're doing at any given moment in Stranger Paradise. And, you get the music. I don't know if people realize that it's essentially like World of Final Fantasy, a kind of celebration of Final Fantasy. It says its origins, but it's not really one. It's all the Final Fantasies. They take levels from various Final Fantasies, put it to the background music of that, and then it's bite-sized, right? So if you don't like getting lost in Elden Ring, if you don't like having to figure out that there's a person standing behind that tree and you have to emote to a sunset between two mountains, standing in the right place, then you can play this game. It'll be a 20-minute excursion. Then you pop back out to the world map. I mean, it's Neo. It's Neo's model if you played that game.
Okay.
So my tilt is completely wrong on this because I love Final Fantasy. It's my favorite series in gaming. And I love even as it goes weird, as it gets into the double digits, I like basically all of them. I like this game. I enjoy playing this game. I enjoy battling. I enjoy doing jobs. I enjoy putting abilities with cross job uses. I love all those things that I love since Final Fantasy V. In a Neo battle game that has asset problems and has poor cutscene editing and has somewhat bad frame rates.
Bad dialogue. Some of that dialogue ain't good.
The dialogue isn't good. The textures are bad. You kind of forget who the characters are most of the time.
But those games can be fun.
Double
They
thumbs
really
up.
can. Yeah.
It feels to me like like in the heyday of PlayStation 2, when there was just all this crap and all this variety that was thrown at you that was somewhat half-baked, but was variety. It is not something that feels like something else you're playing at the time, other than the fact that it does have kind of a Souls bent. I thoroughly enjoy it every time I play it, and it fits into my timeline. You talk about respecting players' time, not wasting time. It's 20 minutes and out, and you can set your difficulty levels. Again, this all follows from Neo. I mean, it's essentially Neo 3 with a Final Fantasy kind of bent. But you set your difficulties that controls what level of loot you get, so you're kind of controlling your own experience. And I don't know that the job system has ever been imparted on an action game like this before. So it feels really cool. And if you aren't familiar with it, you're working down a skill tree and getting experience in your job. And you don't otherwise get experience as an individual. And then those jobs open up cross classes and give you things that you can apply to other jobs so that you can take your warrior job and figure out how that ability can work with a black mage in a cool way that feels, as you do it, like it's not intended. Obviously, all this stuff is intended, but it feels like you're crafting builds in a unique and fun way for an action game. And I thoroughly enjoy it. Now, you do have to like that, your main character is going to listen to the exposition and shout bullshit while putting his iPhone in his ear and listening to, rock. But, that's part of the charm, which is that it is not taking Final Fantasy seriously basically at all.
Okay.
It's awesome.
Interesting. It got a wide range of reviews. I was checking up just to double check right here. And IGN seemed to be on the high side, Travis. They gave it an 8.
I would give it an 8.
But then other sites were giving it 5, 6s. It landed.
Totally understand 5s.
It's critics recommended on OpenCritic is 55%. So it's literally
that's
half
exactly
and half.
right.
I mean,
exactly
Ames,
right.
you were saying I was going to be offended by Hoag's tweet, but I actually am not at all. That doesn't surprise me given Hoag's leanings, and B, I get that Elden Ring is super popular, but I would still argue it is aggressively not for everyone in the same way that Stranger of Paradise is also aggressively not for everyone. And I saw somebody in the chat ask Hoag, are you falling for nostalgia or whatever? And to that I say everyone has their own leanings and biases and lived experience, and you can't really avoid nostalgia, even if you say I'm separating it from nostalgia. You're a human who is subject to that. So I would just say all you can do is say whether or not you are enjoying it, and you can enjoy a game that you also realize has problems. And I agree with IGN's review of 8, and I think that's probably what I would end up giving it, having only played a little bit so far. But you can enjoy a bad game if it's fun. That's really just all what it's about. I gave an Earth Defense Force game, I think a 9 out of 10 or something like that. Those games are written terribly and super poorly optimized. But if you've ever played one, especially with a friend, oh my God, they give me so much fun. You just find yourself laughing and having a ball. So More power to you, Hogue. I agree. That game's cool.
I will sit here and tell you that half the screenshots should be like, I cannot believe this isn't 3 generations ago. Like, I am serious that there's like gauze over some of them.
Right.
The assets don't fit in the background scenes. It's like, I don't know how this was put together. None of that matters because the story of this does not matter at all.
Yeah,
so
and you know, good graphics and screenshot ability does not a good game make. You know what I mean? So there's just more to it.
The battle engine is fantastic. And honestly, I think it would be getting 9s and 10s if it was, you know, better put together. Because the actual game, somebody's going to rip this off and put it in a well-resourced game. You know, Sony will have one of these that has a job system and an action system that they pour $100 million into because it works. You know, the people that actually put together playing the thing really, really works. But as for the question, that's exactly right. I think I said while I was describing it, my tilt, which is how I usually describe it, is towards Final Fantasy. I always try to announce my tilts, whether it's on this channel or mine, because that's important for people to take into account. When I see one of the bombs grow as a little fireball, I'm having a good time regardless, and seeing them in full 3D is neat. And so that's part of my story, as you say. If they ever remastered Star Control 2, I would give it a 10. It doesn't exist. So just to be clear, you know, I mean, that's just where I live. Absolutely.
Yeah. Fair enough. That's cool, man. I saw, you know, it's always tough because it's not a game I'm interested in. And then you see it get 6s and 7s, and the sad state of the industry right now, and we're all guilty of this, is that there are so many games, there's so many releases. When you see a game you're not interested in and it gets 6s and 7s, you immediately disregard it.
Don't blame you at all.
Yep, gone. The only thing that'll get my attention when I'm not interested in is something that everyone's praising, which is not really fair to your point. Probably
what I'll say is, like, look, when you see this one on a Black Friday sale or whatever, there's a real game that lives in there. So you don't have to be worried about that. It's not junk from beginning to end. It's a 6 and a 7 because there's a whole bunch of asset problems and a bunch of dialogue problems. Cutscenes cut off in the middle of music. I mean, you may or may not know this. They use Frank Sinatra's My Way. They never get to My Way. They don't. Yeah, of course. They never get. So, you know, My Way, the song, they have like the first 3 lines, and then as it's about to go into the chorus, they cut it off and cut to black. I'm like, choices were made there, and I have.
Oh my God, that's so awful. I love that.
So, you know,
hilarious.
Hey,
that's great. We got another super chat. I think Gecko is referencing the game. We got another super chat from Gecko.
Yeah, challenge.
That
Drink every time. Yeah. Okay. The guy says that he wants to kill chaos. I have not played it yet, but I want to because it's so hilariously bad in a good way.
Here's the thing that I think people maybe don't recognize is that it is clearly intentionally bad that way. Like it is not confused about what it's presenting. So, but you can take that as you will. I still don't like it, but they built it to be that quote unquote bad. Like it is trying to take the piss out of Final Fantasy while they're in a Final Fantasy.
That's cool. That is kind of cool in a way.
It is cool. So, yeah, it's fun.
Yeah,
it is a fun game. Yeah, from what I've played so far.
And at the end of the day, it's what matters. So thank you, Gecko, again for the super chats. Really appreciate it. All right. Anything else we want to talk about currently playing before we jump over to our Starfield discussion? Let me hear.
Triangle strategy continues to be excellent. We're powering through hour 35 at Hogue House.
Okay.
I played 50 hours of Tiny Tina's Wonderlands this week.
Can you talk at all about it?
I don't think so. I can say that I don't think I can say anything about the game except for that I've played it. But I finished my review at like 2 a.m. last night, so I'm officially done with that game back on Elden Ring. But my review will be live on Wednesday. I spent a lot of time with it this week.
Nice.
Excellent. Looking forward to it. Yeah, I mean that releases Friday. It's back where we've got some big releases coming again because we've got
it releases the same day as Kirby. Well, I'm sorry.
How dare they? Yeah.
Yeah, I was just gonna say we've got Kirby and Tiny Tina on Friday, and then the following Friday we have after multiple years of delay, Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga.
Well, just to be clear, so I can expose myself in the games that I like to play, especially with my daughters. Rune Factory 5 is this week as well, so we can't skip out on that. All right.
Fair enough.
I love the overlap of your games because like sometimes you'll like these like, you know, super prestigious games, and then other times you'll recommend like what was that game you recommend? Lost in
RPG
Words
Time.
Lost in Words, I think, was one.
Legend of Right.
I love Lost in Words.
Yeah, so I bought that game and I played it and I was like, wow, this is like clearly a Hogue and his kids game. And I was like, I don't know about this one, but I get why you liked it. Yeah.
Did you try RPG Time? I love that thing.
I haven't tried that one yet, but yeah, I have bought every game you've recommended just because I feel like I get FOMO super bad about games. I have to at least try.
All right, I will try to be more careful identifying when it's specifically a great family game, Travis.
No, I actually liked that game. I was just
I like Lost Words a lot.
Yeah. See, I'm past that point too. There were a lot of games years ago that I used to play with my son or something that I probably wouldn't still play the same way today. It's interesting how that happens.
Oh, I won so many dad points just for having the Kirby demo on the Switch when she got home from school, like 2 weeks ago. Whenever that demo dropped, she loved that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But games that you play with your kids can also just be fun, and also I like to just see what's out there and stuff. I would have never played Lost in Words if Hogue didn't bring it up on the show. So I'm grateful to expand my experience.
No doubt. Dan, you playing anything we need to touch on?
Just running over hobos. That's it.
Nice.
Grand Theft Auto.
Can't go wrong.
No, it's been fun.
It is it's a well-designed game.
Yeah, I need to get back to it.
Can't believe that game was on the 360.
That's the last time I played it.
Absurd to me.
It's so funny because when you start up Gran Turismo 5, it gives you the flashback, and the flashback is 9 years ago. And I was like, 9 years ago? 9 years ago is the launch.
Wow. All right, so let's jump over to Starfield. We got a little 5-minute kind of vid doc this week, if you will, around some further design aspects of Starfield, and there's been a few other kind of they have unlisted videos on their channel there that if you have the link, you can get to about its development that they're releasing once in a while. And I know some of the sites have had those. We've had a couple of them out, but the timing on this was interesting because, as you know, Elden Ring's kind of taken over the conversation for a few weeks, and it's been kind of at the forefront of gaming. And it was interesting some of the wording they used when talking about Starfield this week, because it was very clear they were talking about player choice and a big open world where you can do whatever you want. But there's a lot of other interesting kind of comments about this game that I wanted to kind of get your guys' thought on. I think, everyone knows Skyrim, of course. We know Skyrim has sold tens and tens of millions of copies. It's a foundational game for Bethesda, probably their most played game of all time. And, I went back and researched some of the interviews with Phil Spencer, the stuff with Todd Howard, and some of the things. And here's some of the quotes of what they're saying about Starfield, just for those who may not, kind of be following it every step of the way. So they said that it's going to be have a grounding in science, and that you'll be able to draw a line from today's technology to the game itself. They wanted it to feel a little more realistic than just sci-fi fantasy. They said Todd Howard specifically said it's going to have two kind of memorable step out moments. And when people asked him what he meant there, he said similar to when playing Fallout and you're in the vault and you step out into the open world for the first time and see kind of the landscape in front of you and kind of everything you can just go do now. He said Starfield has two specific points in it that will feel like that moment. They said they want to have a feeling of discovery and feeling as though you have an impact on the world around you. They said they've really kind of focused in on when you're in this world, you feel like you're a part of it and that you can impact it and change things within the game. Your actions will have, consequences across the world. And that is seemingly tied to some of these things, similar in design perspective to Cyberpunk. It may have obviously different permutations throughout the game, but you can start as one of three groups. And I don't know how to pronounce these properly, but Niocines, I think he said, is an idealized space republic group. You have the Freestar Collective, which is like a space western type thing, he said, which made me think of Firefly, funny enough. And the Ruchin Industries is like the corporate side of space travel. And when you create your character and start this game, you'll be one of those three. You get to choose. And that creates a different starting location and different background and stuff for your character. There's obviously space pirates in the game. They've talked about that previously. And they said that you can join the pirates. You can fight the pirates. You can do whatever you choose. Kind of, I would assume, similar maybe like Dark Brotherhood style in Skyrim. Again, making assumptions here. But they said tied to all this as well is a brand new dialogue system where they really have focused and put a lot of time into this because they want, again, going back to player choice, and they want it to be where the game doesn't kind of let you know what the correct decision is. They want there to be no correct decision. It's really about how you feel you should be playing the game and responding to characters. So I wanted to just kind of put that on the table as some contextual kind of information about this game, because the larger question here is, we keep hearing, we're going to hear more and more, obviously, as the year goes on about Starfield. We already know the new IP for a very long time for Bethesda. We know the potential this game can have. My bigger question for you guys is really around the things that are discussed here. How important are they to you? How excited are you for this game and its potential? And do you believe Todd Howard and Phil Spencer and other people, when they talk about this game, that they do believe this will be their biggest and most played game ever? Now, most played game has an asterisk because you have Game Pass and you have all these different avenues. That's going to be a very hard thing to measure over years to come. But the question being, do you think Starfield can have the same level of impact on the gaming industry that Skyrim has had over the past decade? That was long-winded, I know, sorry, but
No, I like that. No.
No.
Sci-fi does not have the same cachet with as big a demographic group as fantasy. Period.
Okay. And we're done. Moving on.
I don't like to just like commandeer time on this stuff, so I
no, you're fine. You're fine.
Initial comments short. No, look, I think everybody likes choice and having the notions that you could change the world and actually be the star of your own heroic story, etc. As far as I know, I haven't seen anything about Starfield really at all, other than people sitting around talking at a table or concept art and being talked over and things like that. So I view those as aspirational. I think some of those aspirations are in the right direction. But to me, I'm going to have to see the game, and I'm going to actually have to experience it, because there's a lot of things that can say that you're going to change the world and you're going to have player choice, and they can be done well, or they can be done poorly. I don't know whether Starfield will be any good. I haven't seen anything.
Yeah, and I think that's the other thing that's kind of going around right now, is we haven't seen enough of this game, and so it's all speculation right now and theoretical. And I think the people who are really excited for this game are excited for the prospect of what it could be, but also understanding that Todd Howard's team, when they deliver on what we know they can deliver, they've had some truly, industry-changing games, right?
Sure.
Like Skyrim.
Yeah.
And
it's
so
a prestige studio at this point, Bethesda proper.
Yeah, it is. And it's the promise of what that can be. Now, obviously, it goes without saying that, we could have another Cyberpunk situation as much.
Right. We went straight from Witcher 3 to Cyberpunk. I mean, like, that's worth noting. Those two games are in a row.
It is.
I don't know.
Yeah, but that's true. But Bethesda also lives in a world where they also saw the Cyberpunk 2077 release. You know what I mean? So I think that's they live in a different world than the world of Cyberpunk. I actually think
were learned.
And I actually think Cyberpunk's release had a positive impact on the games industry, specifically from a developer perspective, because you can see that nobody gets their W for free. You really have to earn it. Gamers are really good at keeping studios honest.
That's true.
But I'm going to take the opposite view of Hogue, which is that I am
shocker.
I think it's totally I think it's totally fine to be super psyched and have sky high expectations from a studio with a proven track record like Bethesda. And I think they can do it, because Hogue is correct that sci-fi in the past has not had the same appeal that fantasy has had. But the things that turn people off about science fiction, in my opinion, are kind of the mumbo jumbo. The science fiction with a hard S on that science, a capital S, I think has a broader appeal, because it speaks to imagination and ambition and curiosity and the stuff that is like really in our DNA as a species, of like wanting to see what's out there and that sort of stuff. And I think that because they're not going for Star Wars, I would say they're not even really going for Star Trek. It seems like they're going for Interstellar, right? Like
I say they're going for God, it has completely left my head.
Star Citizen.
No, the sci-fi channel show that became an Amazon show that I love to death.
Expanse.
Thank you. Good Lord.
Expanse.
It just died. It just died in my head.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I think they're going for something more realistic, and I think it could. I mean, any game could be that big industry shifting game. You never know what's around the corner. But I think that from this studio, with how much time they've put into it, with the confidence you kind of see from them having not put out anything at this point, which is the Bethesda move. They love that curtain draw. They love that curtain draw. I mean, this is I agree, Hogue, sometimes not showing the game is a bad sign, but not from this studio. Typically this studio, this is their playbook. Like, they don't show the game at all, and then 6 months before it comes out, they give you that blitzkrieg of like just every detail you've ever wanted. And they show too much, in my opinion, with some of these reveals right before. So I think it could get there, but Skyrim was a very specific type of game that came out at a very specific time in the industry and had this broad appeal and broad impact. And the stars would have to align perfectly for it to be as big as Skyrim. So obviously,
not even knowing it.
Yeah, the pun obviously being the sky's the limit. But
I like that.
Yeah. Sky's
well,
the
let
limit,
me defend myself and
you also can explode like one of the space shuttles. So
oh my gosh. Wow. We went a direction there, Travis.
It could be either. You could be either. You could reach for the stars, or you could explode on the landing.
I just remembered third grade suddenly, and also aged myself in the process. So
no, I think I was in
alive
grade
for
too.
that.
I was definitely law school for Columbia. So the only thing I want to defend myself on at all there is that I have no problem with people actually getting excited or hyped about anything, as long as the understanding is that maybe the product or service doesn't meet those expectations. Because I do think there's value in being on this earth and living life with some positivity in your head. I'm looking forward to that thing, and that experience in and of itself is useful. Even if it disappoints at the end. I am not the cynic that says always be disappointed. I'm not giving the moral lessons of Spider-Man now. I am always invested in having everybody be excited for everything. I'm just personally not, because I don't have the same amount of confidence that you do in Bethesda proper and Todd Howard. And I think they'd have a better chance of success if it were Star Wars, because that's fantasy. That isn't science fiction. And by going with the hard science fiction, which is at least what we can glean so far. I mean, they show pictures of scaffoldings. I think the original Starfield teaser had like a solar kite type looking thing in the logo. So that to me is, we're going to tell some hard sci-fi stories. We are going to link what we think we can do, and you actually have to build these with scaffolds and everything else. To me, that's a higher barrier to entry than it's magic.
For sure.
We can teleport, light swords. You like swords. They're space dragons. I don't think they're doing that. And so maybe that would have been easier, and they wanted to do something different. The transition to sci-fi is hard, and I honestly do think the audience is just smaller. So we'll see. I want it to be great because I am invested in sci-fi, and I think maybe this particular Bitcast and discussion is, if we're announcing tilts, we might all be science fiction nerds. I know you and I are, Travis.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, we have to take that into account, which is like, it's going to work for me as a theme, but I know sci-fi bounces hard off of people.
For sure. Yeah, I'm definitely aware of that barrier of entry, and it is real. But I think that there's been interest in a science fiction game with this sort of ambition for a long time.
Yes.
Look no further than Star Citizen, which I still think will never be the game that we were promised. But the amount of people who put their money into that and wanted that thing, I mean, that just shows you that perhaps the reason science fiction is it has not been as popular in gaming is because we haven't had that many good options, at least especially in the open world. And the other thing is that while science fiction does not have a broad appeal, it does have a pretty broad appeal in the gaming community. So if you can
there's almost certainly crossover there. Yeah.
For sure. So if you can get most of the gaming community behind science fiction and behind a game that's done well, I think you can do it. But to your point, it's going to be a harder lift. and Skyrim is a really high bar to be, and it
Of
came
course.
out at a perfect time in the console cycle and all that stuff that like literally the stars would have to align. So
Yeah.
I'm going to stop with all the space puns, but yeah,
Stars will have to align. No, I want
They
you to
will.
keep going. You got you got a notepad of these?
So there's a few other things here that, just to be clear on what's driving some people's hype is first, if you weren't aware, right, there was the stories reported that PlayStation was looking to secure this as a timed exclusive for PS5 prior to obviously the Bethesda acquisition and now it being Xbox exclusive on the console front. The other thing is that this is the first major engine update to Bethesda's core game engine since Oblivion, 2005. We're talking over 15 years.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So there
There'll
are.
be zero problems with that.
Dude,
Well,
engines last longer than people. I mean, Halo just got its first update.
Yeah, I mean they update pieces of them all the time. But like I was talking to Archimedes on his show about the shadowing and like the shadow and lighting engine specifically for shadows and detail, right? That was in the engine prior to this game was literally used for the original Quake. That's how far it
Oh,
goes
that's
back.
awesome.
So
No, that's awesome. Well, I will say one thing though that I think was in this 5-minute roundtable that at least gave me pause because I'm just the lawyer here. I'm just the cynic, I guess. But like they talked about using photogrammetry techniques on people, and at least until now, I personally have found off-putting having actors or motion cap people directly in games. I don't like that look as much as something like Horizon, which is like changing things more fulsomely, except for Lance Reddick, of course.
You don't like LA Noire?
Well, so LA Noire I like as a game, like the model, like I like the mystery solving. No, those people are strange, man. But no, and it could look great. Again, I haven't seen the darn thing. But when you say that, it's like, okay, so you're going for like super realistic faces. I will definitely wait for the receipts there, because I liked how Skyrim had effectively cartoony kind of looks to its people. Like I think that works.
Works better in fantasy, though, in my opinion.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I think Mass Effect worked okay, and that had some cartoony elements. We'll see. When I hear them using those techniques, and I haven't actually heard a video game company using those techniques in the same kind of concept for beings, for people, I say, okay, that I want to see that because it could look very cool. But I found it off-putting in other use cases.
Yeah, and that's why I brought it up is because they've been very clear that from the outset, right, their goals for this game could only really be achieved on the new consoles and kind of updated PCs, right? And so I think that's promising, if nothing else. So we'll see. Let me get these super chats real quick.
Yeah, let me finish my drink real quick. Hey, Hassan, with the $4.99 super chat. We're finally talking about the real game.
Yes, Hassan is extremely excited for Starfield. He is in a DM chat I'm in pretty frequently, and he also said above here, he said, the slander on our Lord and Savior Todd. It just works, Howard.
him and his leather jacket and his $1 billion he's probably got from that acquisition.
Yes, yeah, he's doing okay. Thank you, Hassan, appreciate it. And Sainu back with another super chat as well.
Yeah, the $2.99 Australian apparently. Cyberpunk, aka cyberspace. What could go wrong, right?
Yeah. Man, I wish Cyberpunk had more cyberspace in it.
Right.
Yeah. Tron. A little bit of Tronification.
Wow.
So, Dan, you haven't commented yet. You said no right at the beginning of could it have the impact of Skyrim, but where are you on this game?
I think that's unrealistic because there's not many games that have had that impact
that
Skyrim has had. But I don't think it's going to be garbage. But I also remember Fallout 4. I also remember, Fallout 76. And Travis, you talk about these. Well, yeah, it's. I understand that the Fallout 4 was Bethesda's last one. No,
Fallout 4 was them, yeah. But Fallout 4. Remember, I'm not a big a fan of Fallout 4 as I was Fallout 3, but Fallout 4 was very highly regarded.
Yeah, but it was also
well received.
It was well received.
What did you say?
I was just asking for confirmation there because I tend to think like you, Dan. I think of Fallout 4 as the hollow sequel to a better premiere.
Right. I mean, I love Fallout 3, probably better, more so than Fallout 4. But I remember just game breaking crap happening all the damn time to me, and it was maybe it was just me, and that maybe it was nobody else. I doubt it. But
that's still life.
Yeah. But you know what? I'm still super pumped for this game. That's the thing. It's I love these types of games. Going back, from Morrowind all the way to here, I love these types of RPGs. I have semi confidence in Bethesda, but I also know that the bar is not as high as it was before. Now this is all accepted. Bugs and crashes and all this other stuff. This is commonplace anymore. It's not like it's, so I fully expect that stuff to happen. I just want it to be contained, to where it's not over, we've gotten to a point where we have accepted these games are going to come out in generally, and not all of them, but generally are going to have some problems, when they launch and more so than say when I started gaming back in, on the Nintendo or the Atari, it just worked. It was the Todd Howard thing. It just worked. You didn't get patches and crap like that. You didn't get chances to go back and fix stuff that just screwed up. It just had to work when you got it. Now I fully expect this to be a pretty big buggy mess, but I also expect it to be awesome. So, my hype levels aren't like through the roof, but this is going to be one of those games I think that are, I don't think it'll define anything. I don't think it'll be industry defining by any means, but who the hell knows? Todd Howard might surprise everybody, or he might not. I have no clue, man, because I've seen nothing. I have no idea what this game's about.
It's hard to talk about it is.
Yeah, I think so. It is curious, right? Because you can tell that even they are aware of the expectation of bugs and bugginess, right? Because in multiple interviews now, Todd has specifically called out that this game was code complete a year ago, and that really they're spending this entire year plus polishing and just getting it ready for launch. And
that's great that they haven't managed to leak anything. A year of QA,
pretty impressive. Yeah, impressive. But and you can believe that. You can believe that as you will.
Didn't Cyberpunk do the same thing? Didn't they? Weren't they supposed to come out?
No. Cyberpunk, I think, was being coded as the game was actually being digitally shipped to you.
Don't you remember?
Cyberpunk was code complete a month ago. Yeah.
Don't you remember they had a 3-week delay just before release, saying we still need to squash more bugs, and everyone's like, a 3-week delay is not enough time to fix.
I thought there were more than just one delay, wasn't there? There were
multiple delays.
Cyberpunk got delayed 5 times, I believe.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
There are multiple delays, but that's completely different than saying a game's code complete. That's
what does that mean?
That's actually the opposite. Code complete means that the game right now you can sit down and play it as it will exist at launch fully.
Oh.
What it means is that while you're doing that, you're probably running into the bugs we're referring to. You might fall through the floor. You might have a quest fail. You might have stuff fall out of your inventory. All those things that they have to polish. That's where polishing phase comes in. Bugs. Yeah. So they're saying that they're spending basically a year plus just getting the game ready for launch.
They're making all those big patches that we'd otherwise get at day 0 and 3 months and 6 and 9 and 12.
Yeah, exactly. That's what they're saying. Now, whether or not that happens, we'll see, of course, but that's what they're saying.
It's all aspirational. And by the way, on your question of who will play, I do think everybody's going to pop their heads in. Game Pass numbers don't matter for anything to me. It's like, there's 18 million Horizon 5 players. That's great. Talk to me about engagement long term. People will pop their heads into the next big thing on Game Pass. Absolutely, they will.
Of course.
You do have to subscribe to Game Pass to play it, though. So
it's not free.
It's not nothing. Yeah.
My $1 runs out in April, man.
No additional cost.
$1.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, man. I am really excited for this game to see what
I am really excited too, and I think I'm going to be reviewing it. So I have to figure out. I hope they give us enough time for a game this big.
Oh, they will. Have you reviewed a Bethesda game before?
Deathloop, which I got 48 hours.
Yeah, no, not that. I've reviewed like Bethesda proper games before, and usually you get them like 3 weeks, a month in advance. Like you get a lot of time.
All right, so we know to hit Travis in October. We'll make a note.
Right. I actually also reviewed Fallout 76. I believe my tagline for that game was "Worst Virginia." Very happy about that one.
You and I share a love of puns.
Yeah, we sure do. We sure do.
Let me get this super chat from Sarko in the house.
Sarko, Space Skyrim, Skyrim Space. Need it, want it, gotta have it. Gimme. Skyrim in space.
I don't even know. They don't even need to show anything. They should just they can just drop the game. People are pumped.
Although I will mention they do not call it that. They do not market it this way. You'll notice they do not.
They don't market it, but Todd Howard has said that.
He has said it, of course.
Yeah.
But didn't he have an interview where he said the easiest way to think about it is a Skyrim in space?
Yeah,
Doesn't he actually say those words?
He did.
Yes, he did.
But I think they are trying to.
that way.
They're trying to distance themselves from that statement.
Yeah, but they of course are saying from the team that brought you Skyrim, which goes without saying.
Of course, yeah. Why would they say that?
Yeah,
For the team who brought you Skyrim on your refrigerator.
And Sarko, thanks, brother, for the super chat. Sarko is a huge Skyrim fan, if you couldn't tell. So
I don't want to take anybody's excitement away. Be pumped.
Yeah,
life's too short.
Of course, always. And speaking of being pumped, we're going to transition now because we got the first kind of full look at Hogwarts Legacy this week.
Things I am pumped for.
All right. So Hogwarts Legacy, this game has been in development for a long time.
Oh man.
And we haven't seen it yet. You know, there was a lot of speculation about it. I remember, Travis, I don't know if you, but there was a spot in the convention center where there's a huge banner on a wall for Hogwarts Legacy in 2019. And I'm like, it's 2022. We're finally seeing it 3 years later.
It was just that guy standing at the cliff's edge, and you could see Hogwarts in the background.
I want to say it was Kotaku, but I might be wrong, where somebody leaked a test audience in a mall for what is clearly now Hogwarts Legacy. I want to say it was 2018.
Oh yeah.
Maybe earlier.
It's been in dev a long time. So we got the PlayStation State of Play this week. It showed a good, I think it was 15 minutes of full gameplay. They covered all the different aspects of the game. And the funny thing is, well, here where you guys stand, I'm not a huge Harry Potter fan. I think by the time that got really big, it was past me, right? I was older. So I certainly respect it. I know how big it is. I know how meaningful it is to a lot of people out there. But having all said that, I said previously, I think on this show at some point, I said, if this is like an RPG where you can create your own wizard and experience Hogwarts in an open world, that could really sell me. And that's exactly what we got.
Have you seen the video views on this thing?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It's
so
12 million.
I am I was surprised. I don't know about you guys. I was very surprised at how interested I became as it went on. And I'm also surprised at how much they're seemingly building into this game, right? This is what looks to be a very large game that ties not only a lot of the Harry Potter lore, but expands upon it, broadens the world. You can go to classes and spells. I don't need to describe everything in the video, but it really intrigues me. I was like, okay, I can create my own wizard. I can learn spells. I can explore and discover secrets. I'm in, man. I thought this was great.
Yeah,
it looks like they poured resources into it. I was hopeful from the tease on this that this was what it was, but it seems impossible. I mean, it seems like there's a lot of real time and energy and development put into this game. We know Warner Brothers has had difficulty getting releases done through the pandemic. I mean, they've had delays all over the place. So I think a number of us, we talked about this. We were concerned that Hogwarts wouldn't even be this year, and it might still not be. I think February is really the most likely landing spot for anything announcing holiday 2022. But it's clearly something that they're comfortable showing. I've described the current Assassin's Creeds as Teen Witcher. This feels like Witcher is an inspiration again for these kinds of things. By the time you get to go around to hamlets and everybody has their own story with missions and things like that, I'm like, okay, cool. And so I looked at that. I was blown away. I haven't been that moved in terms of from where I was before the video started to where I was when it ended in a long, long time. I mean, in a while. So I'm too old for the Harry Potter old white guy screaming people kind of thing.
Oh, I'm gonna have a unique experience on this one. It's funny.
Okay, but my younger sister was really into it, and so I remember actually having to run in the day one of them released. I want to say Goblet, and actually like see if we could find one in the Chicago metro area. That I was jumping out of the car to try to get one for my sister because we were elsewhere. And so I recognize how big it was. This, if I tweeted out that if this gets good scores, it's going to sell a bunch. If this gets anything but its broken mess, it's going to sell a bunch.
Yes,
because it's the fantasy, right? And I don't mean fantasy like Magic and Dragons and elves and everything. It's the fantasy. It's one of those brands that people would love to live in. And this game is aimed directly at trying to achieve that in a way that, frankly, Star Wars, there's no games that really have this kind of aim and intention. And if they can pull it off, I'm so thrilled for the people that are adamant Harry Potter fans, but I'm thrilled for all of us because that's the kind of thing that I love to see companies throw their effort at. And I'm super excited, as you could probably tell. I think it looks fantastic.
Yeah. So Travis, please comment, and Dan as well. I'm sorry, I have to step away for 2 minutes. I'll be right back. But keep going.
Oh wow, he's gonna step away. He doesn't care about my opinion. I know. Yeah. So I guess my perspective is pretty unique here, which is that I am part of the Harry Potter generation. I think I was in 3rd grade when the first Harry Potter book came out. Which is like the perfect age to be when that
You're
comes
right on
out.
the ages?
I was like right there. Yeah, I was right there. So I was like Harry Potter's actual age when that book as they were growing. But that said, I was kind of too much of a nerd to be a Harry Potter guy because by 3rd grade I was already reading Lord of the Rings, and which is a much more challenging book, and also just like the world building is way better in Lord of the Rings. So I was kind of looking at Harry Potter like you guys are into that kid stuff, and I had like criticisms about the world because of course I did. That was my entire personality when I was that age. So I was like, it's basically an apartheid, that, like the Muggles and the just all the stuff I had to say about that book. So I was kind of like too nerdy to really be into it, but I did read them all as they came out, and I had that kind of connection to them. So I've sort of been like a casual to Harry Potter, not really a fan, dabbled in all of it, but I knew that this game was going to be good because I have a friend in the games industry, Chandler, who I met through Destiny. We both covered Destiny for years and we're big fans of it. And he quit his job as the editor-in-chief of an outlet to go work at this company. And he was actually one of the guys featured on the video. He was one of the people getting interviewed in the video. So I was, as soon as he quit his job to go work on this game, I knew it was going to be a great game because he had seen stuff I hadn't seen. And I was like, I trust him enough to know that this game is going to be fantastic. So my hype levels were probably higher than most people. And boy, did it not disappoint. Like I was watching it with my girlfriend, she's even younger than me and is a huge Harry Potter fan. She was like ecstatic, everything. I'm kind of a sucker for games where you have to go to school. I don't know why, but that's like such a cool mechanic. You have to juggle kind of like schoolwork, Persona does it really well, stuff like that. So I was really fan. I do have some stuff I'm worried about. One, I don't know if you guys thought this as well, but the combat looked so to me. It's a little
I love the animations.
Yeah, the animations are
cool. I couldn't tell whether they were holding people back for demo purposes.
It kind of looked like a little stiff, and it's just weird waving a wand around as a combat mechanic. I don't think there's any real way around that. And then the other thing was the broom gliding to me looked real rough, like just kind of like no resistance, just kind of flowing. The cape, the robes weren't like flowing in the wind or anything. It kind of looked very odd to me. So hopefully they'll hammer some of that out. But overall, the ambition for this game is fantastic. Just how much they're trying to take on and how much they seem to have put in the game. So I'm very excited for this to come out. And Chandler, if you're watching this, man, I'm proud of you, my Destiny bro.
Really good, Chandler.
And a really awkward time for Ains to come back, but you can watch you can watch this after it's on YouTube and catch up. But yeah, I'm very excited for this game and have a connection to it that I think is cool.
Awesome. Glad I caught all that. Thank you, Travis.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm kind of the same way. I've read all the books. I've watched all the movies. That's about
awesome.
My experience with it. So yeah, this is going to be cool. I think being able to create your own character and go through Hogwarts, if this is what it is. I want to see. Are they going to do a bunch with Quidditch? I didn't see that part. Maybe, I'd like to see a little bit of that. not trying to like out nerd anybody here, but that was kind of some of my favorite parts of the movie for some reason.
Of course,
Gotta wish that sport had rules that made sense.
Yeah, 100%. But,
Harry Potter's universe doesn't make sense at all. Like I can pick it apart right now and go on a huge diatribe, but Quidditch is the.
I get it. It's a kid's fable for the most part, but man, that golden snitch value as a sports lover, I'm like, none of this. What? You should have like 6 seekers. go get that. Go get that snitch.
Yeah, I mean the only concerns I have about it did look a little bit. The graphics looked a little dated, maybe. And maybe that's an earlier build. So
it's not Horizon. I mean, I think that jumps out. Yeah, the faces are not where we're at right now, and that goes to like a length of development.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's cross-gen and been in dev for a long time. That's gonna happen.
Yeah, it's gonna happen. But I'm excited for it. It's supposed to come out right around the same time as what was it? There was a date release, wasn't it? It was in October, like
holiday.
No,
just holiday.
Holiday 2020, which
I
mean, assume it's Valentine's Day.
Yeah. Well, I mean, especially if Starfield releases at the same time. So.
Valentine's Day.
Yeah,
it would be a great Valentine's Day game, honestly.
I've been telling them just assume it's February, and if they hit earlier, great. The one thing that's happened over the last few years is that January and February is not a dead zone. You can sell plenty.
Yeah,
and so if it needs it, it's February. I mean, that's just what's going to happen.
I will say one thing that excites me about this game is, and I don't know if you guys have this view, but I really like it when a certain game, because of its power, makes the gaming community bigger. And this feels like one of those games that's about to bring a lot of non-gamers into the gaming world. Like my girlfriend was super stoked about it, but also her sister, who doesn't game at all, was like, oh my God, I saw the trailer. Like, have you guys seen this? And it's just like stuff like that, where 12 million views on YouTube, I think it was, for this 15-minute video, which is like long in YouTube, minutes, is like super exciting. I'm just wondering how many people we're going to add to the gaming community with this game, because I feel like its reach is going to be enormous.
I agree completely. My daughters, who obviously play games because I'm a gamer, but they clapped at the end of this thing. It is not a normal reaction for them.
For sure.
Let's see. The state of play is at 4.5 million views from 2 days ago. The reveal trailer is almost at 30 million.
Yeah, the tease was at 28 million, like right out of the blocks. It was
God, that's disgusting.
And that's just the PlayStation channel, right? That's not all the other companies or WB Games or IGN or anyone else. That's just PlayStation.
That's like one Bitcast video.
right. 28 million a little low for us, but yeah.
I remember those days. 28 million. So that's cool. I hope it's really good. It says holiday to Rick's point. We'll see if they actually hit that or not. We do know the only ones we really know in terms of kind of big. I was thinking about this big AAA games that have set release dates for this fall are Starfield, which we talked about obviously, and Gotham Knights, which is October as well, or October 21st, something like that. And remember, God of War is supposed to come this fall as well. Whether or not it actually hits, we'll see. But that's another one I could see maybe hitting in March or April.
I keep thinking it's in March or April. I swear to God that's like the.
It just seems like that's where it belongs. You know what I mean?
Is that where God of War came out? Well, God of War 1. It came out in the spring.
It came out in that slot
in May, I believe.
It came out in the old Returnal slot.
The old Returnal.
I thought it was May, but I could be wrong. But so we'll see. Either way. But it's going to be interesting, no doubt. We got another super chat from Gecko Gamer. Gecko, you are out of control, my friend.
Relax, man.
Yeah. Believe me. And while we certainly appreciate it, if you do already super chat, I do kind of keep an eye to see if you're following up with additional comments. So don't feel like you have to. While we love it, don't feel like you have to super chat four and five times.
For the kids. Gecko Gamer, thank you again, Sir Hogue. Star Citizen also markets itself in a similar way. I'm not sure.
Gotta believe that's for Starfield.
For Starfield,
I'm maybe around the. No, I'm not sure what that's referring to. Gecko, just put it. Don't super chat again, please. Just go ahead, put it in the chat. What kind of expand upon that, and we'll discuss it because I'm not sure what you mean by that one.
Kind of disagree if he's referring to Starfield though. I don't. I think different marketing strategies.
Yeah, well, Star Citizen is a whole nother
I don't
Yeah.
even know if you call that a marketing strategy so much as
I don't know, but it worked. Whatever he did.
I mean, it might be a reference to hard sci-fi versus soft or fantasy sci-fi.
that's true.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Okay. All right. So let me see where we're at here. We got the ID at Xbox Showcase this week. Tunic finally released after years of anticipation, and there's
so
a few
good.
other games. I mean, there were several other games kind of during that presentation that caught my interest. A couple of them, just to name a few, is Trek to Yumi, which has just looks interesting, right? Flintlock Siege of Dawn is A44 Games, the developers of Ashen. And Dan, I was laughing about when I played Ashen and you and Bert were commenting on it years ago. So we actually have an whole playthrough of Ashen that I did for the Season Gaming channel where Bert and Dan just commented on it while I was playing, which is funny. So I was just going to ask you guys quickly if one, if you're playing Tunic, and two, any game in this showcase kind of jump out to you or interest you?
I'll start. No and no, because I don't play indies, but not that they're not great. And I played enough Tunic to know that it just completely crushed my soul. I was really expecting something different, and the last demo just kind of showed me that I expected the wrong thing. So good luck, Tunic. Good luck, indies. I don't play you, but I appreciate you.
How do you not play indies? I don't. That's such a broad. It's such a huge brush to paint with.
I mean, I'm not any indies. You know what? When my game of the year, like
isn't Hitman an indie? Technically,
no,
self-published.
I don't want to talk to you anymore.
No, they're published by Square, isn't it?
No, what was the
used to be
the Pathless? That
Pathless.
Game was a really, really good game, which I would consider technically an indie game. So there's every once in a while there's one that comes out. I'm just like, oh hey, this is good. But normally I'm just like, yeah, I can't deal with this shoddy production value when I've got these amazing AAA games over here that are
You just talked about how buggy they are.
Listen, not all of them. Listen, all I do is go back and play like these huge games. Right before Horizon came out, or after, I'm not sure which one, I was playing Assassin's Creed Valhalla again through the whole thing. Brand new, played it before. There's Elden Ring. That surprises me.
That surprises me.
Well, I mean, it's 7. It's a good game, just. Plus, I was getting ready for the new DLC, which I probably won't buy now because it's not really DLC.
You'll drop it in half in like next month.
Yeah. Give it a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Also, I did look it up, Ains, and Hitman 3 is self-published because they bought their independence. Remember, a couple years ago.
They did.
IO Interactive published their game, which means
Hitman
3 is an indie game, which means Dan likes indie games. There you go. The defense rests.
Yes.
But I am sad for you, Dan, because you've been talking.
What is
about
independence?
Dan has been talking about Tunic for 3 years, 4 years.
Since it was announced, I was so pumped because it looked like Zelda and a fox, and I was like, "This is perfect. This is like the next step of the evolution that I wanted to see from."
I'm totally gonna back Dan up on this. By the way.
Yeah, and then I played the demos, and I was just like, I can download it on Game Pass, but I'm not even gonna bother because I know what's gonna happen. I'm gonna get really, really mad and get more disappointed than before. So I figure if I just ignore it and pretend like it doesn't exist, then I'm good. So
hey, I hadn't played Tunic's demos. I knew it was the Fox game with like the shift to tilt shift isometric geometry game. I 1,000% was not expecting what this thing is. Right? There are so many like Fez vibes, like that kind of intellectual snooty indie game kind of feel to a Tunic that I wasn't expecting. And so I probably won't play it much longer. I totally get why some people like it more than I do. But I was expecting Zelda as a fox. I was expecting something significantly simpler as a concept. And that's a marketing issue, which is solved by Game Pass. Because you go and download it, but I do think that there was a bit of a disconnect because I knew enough to be, hey, it's the Fox game, and then you get in there and the language isn't there, and then you're doing like I don't know, like Souls combat a little bit, and avoiding things in a bullet hell scenario. I mean, there's like, okay, this is not what I thought it was, and probably I have other things to play that are more what I thought they were.
Yeah, that is interesting, and I think you're right. Game Pass kind of helps that problem to begin with. But I would suspect that you guys are definitely not alone. That people are going into this game not expecting it to kind of push back as hard as it does, and to be as kind of
For sure.
obtuse as it can be.
I think it might be the presentation more than, because I can't really, and granted I'm kind of speaking out of turn here because I did not follow this game's marketing very much at all, but I feel like they didn't make any promises telling people that it was going to be what it was. I think it's really just the fact that you play a little cute fox with cute graphics. And he has a sword and shield just like Link, and he's wearing a green tunic.
It looks like a little adventure game.
It just makes you think like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be out here breaking pots and doing stuff like that. And then you play the game and you're like, what? Like, okay, this is way more difficult. But from my perspective, I just saw some trailers and I thought, okay, it looks like an interesting adventure game. And then I read Ryan McCaffrey's review and I was like, dang, this is going to be awesome. And then I downloaded it. So I think it probably is just the way it presents is like a little bit misleading. But
you think it's super happy Lucky Tail?
Yeah,
I mean, you do.
Happy Lucky Tail. You do. And I actually saw people posting Lucky Tail.
That's an underrated game, by the way. I'll defend that.
It's great. But I was in the look. I will tell you right now. I started Tunic with my youngest daughter because I'm like, hey, we'll do this together. and we're like an hour in, and she's like, I don't. They got all the words wrong, and you need to fight everything. And I'm like, well, it's only fighting. Okay, we should play something else.
Wow.
She's like, yeah, I'm out.
Yeah.
But that's my fault.
I'm gonna beat this game. I'm very excited. I don't really have time for it now because I still have to finish Elden Ring. But once I got time, it's definitely on the top of the list for my backlog. So as is Stranger Paradise and all the other games I'm never gonna get to until the end.
I played it for about an hour, and I've gotten a little. I haven't gotten to the first main boss yet. I've just kind of.
You haven't got bit.
What? No, I haven't
got bit yet.
No, I haven't. So we'll see. Like I said, I'm really into Gran Turismo right now, and I'll come back to it. But it hasn't grabbed me. No, I mean, like it's the difficulty doesn't. I like difficult games, especially difficult indie games. I love them, but it just there's something about it that really hasn't interested me that much. We'll see.
That cold Zelda open is hard. I mean, we talk about it not being Zelda, but it opens like Zelda.
It does.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's hard. You got to do something to make sure that you want to be in there. In that world.
Yeah. So we'll see. By the way, Gecko did get back to us. He said, Hogue said that Hogwarts Legacy tries to promise a world to live in. Star Citizen did this also, although way more aggressively. That's what he was referring to. He said a lot of the marketing is aimed at the different kind of jobs you can do, whether it be space pirate, freighter, or something else. That's Starfield, though. Or no, I guess he's talking about Star Citizen. Yeah, sorry.
Does that as well,
and not a knock against Hogwarts per se. So,
they're obviously different models of game, and they're aimed at different people. But I do think I'm always enthused about a game studio showing the ambition to say you can live here, and that's the No Man's Sky marketing way back when with whatever you want, whether you want to characterize those as lies or not. That everything else that's been said, Star Citizen. Honestly, the business model is too fruitful, not finishing itself. So, you take it with that grain of salt. This has that same kind of ambition. I like the word ambition. I like ambitious for what that video was for Hogwarts Legacy, because the dream is I want to go be Harry Potter. And
for sure,
you in an interactive medium, you have the capability of doing that, but it's going to cost a lot of money and a lot of time. And so we don't often see studios taking that crack at something, especially on a licensed property where they don't collect necessarily everything, where those monies go. And so I'm enthused by Warner Brothers saying, screw it, we're going to let you live at Hogwarts. And if it comes up with the same kind of level that they put in that video, it's going to be amazing. And if it comes up a little less, it's still going to be good. So I'm very excited about it.
Yeah. I think the whole, you're going to live here is kind of an overused, marketing trope or aspirational trope. But in this case, it's like, yeah, that's exactly what players have always wanted from a Harry Potter game, and nobody's even really tried it. Like we've gotten some pretty bad Harry Potter games in the past, and this one looks like they're finally doing it right. And that's just
the stuff that jumps out right to me is that you're going to visit Hogsmeade, you're going to be the 5th year, and we're going to go through the seasons, which to me is like part of the Harry Potter experience.
Totally,
it's like you're a year at that place. And
getting
that's
your class chosen, that's crazy. I have no idea how they're going to pull that off. The fact that you can be in Slytherin or Gryffindor.
But imagine the brilliance of that, right? Because as soon as everyone starts this game and creates their wizard,
yes, it's going to be
everything on social media is going to be, what class did you get? Where did you get sorted? Where did you get
and
sorted?
what's happening with the different stories? And I'm wondering.
I was actually asking my daughters this. I'm like, I'd be willing to bet you pick your house.
That's what I would say too. I would say you would. I know what it showed on the thing, but I would say you're probably more apt to either prior to getting the sorting hat put on you, you would probably answer a set of questions.
That's what I think.
That will.
And remember how Harry Potter works, right? He's the one that says not Slytherin, not Slytherin. I think you could easily have a dialogue or whatever that is you suggesting the house.
I think it'd be better if you picked it and then there was like a 3-hour part that you would have to redo. That way, it really locks you into.
I think what they'll do is they'll have the questionnaire, like you're saying, Dan, where you'll get a suggestion and then you have the ability to override it. Something like that. I think they'll probably do that. But like my question is, does your house like drastically change like the story? Like, are you going to be in different? Talking to different main NPCs
classes,
and stuff like that.
Different classes.
Like I'm wondering like how big of a deal, because if that's a big divider, this game's going to be amazing, like next level if it's big. But I kind of think it probably won't.
They show the different halls. I think if you were being realistic, you'd have like one main NPC that was different, that was your person, like McGonagall is Gryffindor's and that kind of thing. But they gotta. There's only so many assets in the world.
Totally.
You gotta pipeline people back. Yeah. It's the other interesting part of that, right, is that they talked about specific NPCs that you'd have, Mass Effect style relationships with. They got to come with you. They got to be in your house in order to have those relationships in all likelihood.
I'm wondering how. I really hope they do social links. I feel like that's also part of Harry Potter, is like making friends at the school. So I'm kind of hoping they'll have social links. And obviously my girlfriend, who's big into dating sims, was like, they better have romance options, So I think that would be good. You're in your 5th year.
Possible. They made him 15, right? They made him 15. So it's like right there.
Right on the cusp. You can kiss a girl, but that's not it.
Yeah.
I think that's the legal age for kissing. I wouldn't know. I was a grown man by the time I got kissed. But,
it checks what state you live in when it gives you your romance option. Me and Dan in Kansas can apparently marry.
Warning at the top of your PlayStation: the following scene is blocked for recording.
That's right.
Oh my God. Too funny. Yeah, I don't know how we went from ID at Xbox back to Hogwarts. I think Gecko's coming.
It was a super chat. Yeah.
And the corporate guy in me, of course, I'm watching this going like, oh my God, that is so DLCable. Like that is that is so expandable.
Yeah.
The bean counters, the business people are like, it's this mini adventure over here. It's a new class. You could DLC the crap out of that game.
I am happy that they're not doing games as a service, though. I mean, this is very clearly like a one and done single player game.
And they did confirm there's no microtransactions.
No microtransactions, no multiplayer.
Yes. So let's love it. Yeah. This game's gonna, I think we already all said, this game's gonna sell like bonkers.
It's gonna go crazy.
After the show, it was very clear why we got a PlayStation State of Play for a third-party game, because PlayStation obviously recognized how big this game is going to be and nabbed it up. So,
and it's important to point out it'll be everywhere. They also they shadow announced a Switch version.
They did,
for God's sakes.
It will be everywhere, but the 30 million people who now saw this on PlayStation, many of whom are probably not proper core gamers, are not going to know that, and they're going to be playing it on PlayStation.
I'd
be willing to bet it's like an 80% margin.
Yep. 80% buys it for two reasons now: to associate it with their brand and to keep it off Game Pass.
Yeah,
for sure,
100%.
Or maybe you can only be Hufflepuff on the PlayStation. Exclusive.
Yeah. God, don't even offer that stuff. Somewhere Sony guys taking notes.
I don't know how much that would affect the numbers, though, Dan. Maybe they should have fought for a different school.
Gryffindor has to be multi-plat. It's the negotiations are very specific.
Yeah, you can have Pufflepuff, Sony. Yeah. How about that?
It's basically a different color scarf.
We promised to work on it more than Spider-Man and the Avengers.
Yeah.
Oof. All right, last thing I want to mention, and I just found this interesting because it is still one of the most popular games in the world, of course, is that Fortnite launched their new season today. It launched this morning, and for a limited time, they removed building from it, which has been something that players like me who don't necessarily mind Fortnite but hate the building aspect of it in the competitive space, um, have lots of people have asked about that, and they were like, there's always been this conversation of should Fortnite remove building, and there's people like me who say yes, and there's others who say no, it's fundamental to the game, and you go back and forth. But regardless, it seems like they're experimenting with removing buildings. So at least I think it's for like the next 5 days or 7 days. There's no building in the game.
It's got to be a mode.
Instead, they've added clambering and different maneuverables. There's now a sprint boost. So they're changing the movement dynamics of the game to move away from building in this probably what will end up.
You get like an overshield and some other stuff like that too, I think.
Yeah.
This is going to be interesting because I think you're right, Hogue. I think it's going to be a separate mode where you have two completely different play styles. I'm interested to see where people kind of end up. Because this kind of thing it's a little bit different, but I've always been a proponent of a PvE only server in Sea of Thieves. Right. And I've always wanted to see what it would be like just for like a week or two to see what the actual, because you're going to have people that are the builders, right? And they're going to be like, okay, well, all these other people that couldn't build just left and went over to this one. Now we have nobody to kill because now we have people that are playing this that are on our skill level, and all of a sudden we have to be better. Then they're going to be mad, which I think is the same thing that would happen in PvP, like a PvP only or a PvE. If you took out some of the PvE players from Sea of Thieves, you'd have those PvP players getting mad because those PvEers that are in there just searching and doing treasure hunting and stuff like that aren't there because they lack the skill to have these combats in a combat system that is not great anyway.
It's like when they added skill-based matchmaking to Call of Duty, people flipped out.
Right.
Because suddenly they're having to face people of their skill level.
A specific group of people flipped out.
Yes.
I mean, I roll around Sea of Thieves playing my accordion on the bow, trying to establish that I am no threat. Because, again, my daughters show up a lot in these kinds of things, but especially when they were much younger, Sea of Thieves, I'm like trying to not just, kill, murder, and steal. And so we would go and we would play our musical instruments at the front of our ships, and then we would generally get popped in the face. But I would play PvE Sea of Thieves in 2 seconds. You say, well, the title doesn't make any sense. I do not care.
Yeah. Don't.
Yeah, I just think it's part of the pirate fantasy. I'm on the opposite
worst
end.
excuse.
You're against giving me the option to enjoy
the option
in a separate mode.
I'm actually rather supporting the developer's vision for the game, which is a world wherein pirating is a core mechanic to the game. And
they can enjoy their vision without me.
For sure, and you don't have to play the game. And I think they've been successful anyway.
76 let you pay $10 for their free for a
I just don't get the world's best ocean. I would like to just sail around.
Yeah, well, you can. Awesome. You can sail around. You just, every couple hours you're going to get pumped.
It's true.
I think the same thing can be said for Fortnite actually, which is that I think the building is the thing that made them different. It's been there from the beginning, and I reviewed Fortnite weirdly, which is a weird thing to say because it was not a battle royale. I reviewed I reviewed a decent co-op game, and then like a month after it came out, everybody was like, "It's the biggest game in the world, and it's a battle royale." And I went, "What? I don't remember that at all. That wasn't even in the game." So
it's helpful to get all the data of the battle royale that's really succeeding.
Yeah, I do think that they're chasing a game that they aren't, which is this like competitive shooter, and I really don't think that they have the shooting chops to survive that way. Personally, I think that the fact that it's got the building and it's kind of like quirky and a little bit cartoony and all that stuff is part of its success. So obviously I'm okay with it being a mode if that's the developers want to go, but I really don't think they're going to find success there, because if you like a battle royale that's about like a hardcore, like straight up shooting game, like you have other options and they're a lot better. So I don't think that's the
I
path.
disagree with Travis entirely. I know that's a rarity here on this channel.
And,
But I think you could have a goofball Fortnite. I agree, I do agree with you entirely that it just needs to be the Lisa Frank trapper keeper of games. Like that's what it's good at is doodles and Batman versus John Wick or whatever. But building has never felt good to me on console, especially. And so I don't love spinning around and holding triggers and things like that. So to me, I think it can only be improved with at least trying out how that looks without it, because building was from Save the World. It was in Fortnite Battle Royale because it was in the engine. Yeah. And I don't think it ever necessarily made Fortnite what it was at the start. That's my opinion, of course.
I'm glad they're trying it, to your point. Like, it's been requested by quite a few people. We'll see what it does. We'll see if people like it. I know that I've been joking about playing with Luke and Joe because they play Fortnite all the time. And I was like, I'll play it with you. What the hell? It's not a game I normally play.
Chill.
But now when I saw this morning, I was like, oh, we got to play now. Like, I'm excited to actually play it without the building. So we'll see.
Well, it's just nice to see them giving you the option, right? And that's what I'd like to see. But the problem with a lot of these games is that they build them around, say like PvP versus PvE. It's just, and so all the new additions and stuff to any of those games will start focusing on one or the other, and they start pushing things in one certain direction, because like you saw with Sea of Thieves, it wasn't like some kind of huge game, especially early on. And then, what was his name? That moron that streams. No, not Ninja. He's all right. I can't remember. It's Shroud, maybe. Can't stand that dude. Anyway, he snuck onto a ship, right? And just stayed there on somebody's ship. They didn't know he was there. All right. And then all of a sudden, people saw that. And that's what started growing that community, was people being a-holes the entire time. And it just kept going and going and going. And Rare kept adding certain things to the game that were disguised as PvE things, but really it was just to bring more PvE players in so they can get the Twitch numbers, so they could, have the PvPers own them. Because that's where the big numbers are. It's not from people going out and, there are certain aspects of it from what I've seen where, it's like, oh, these guys met on the sea and they were best friends. No.
That is a part of it, though.
There's your 100 view stream. Oh, this guy's got 20,000 people watching. Why? Oh, he's just destroying everybody that comes within like 100 yards of him. That's what people want to watch, because people are generally assholes. So that's what sells. And so that's what
Dan has a bone to pick with Sea of Thieves, if you couldn't tell.
I have 300 hours in that game. All right, 300 plus, probably more than that, maybe 500. It's a lot, and it was one of my favorite games, even as little as there was to do in the beginning. It was so much fun because I was able to get, and you would meet people and you'd be like, hey, let's play these stupid instruments they put in the game for no reason whatsoever and just hang out and just, we'll run into each. It was fun. You met people that were nice. Now it's just people that, my whole move is now to just, no matter what I have on my boat, I just head into like the Dead Sea or the Red Sea and just have them follow me. And then they get mad. And then I get typing, little chats like, what are you doing? I'm trying to sink you. Yeah, you know what? Kiss my ass. I'm not even gonna let you do it. I'm gonna kill myself. You guys come in here if you want to do this. That's the point I've gotten to with Sea of Thieves. I've actually uninstalled it. It was one of those games
that doesn't sound like even worth playing.
Wow.
Oh god, it's terrible.
It sounds like you've encountered PC players, is what happens.
Yes,
really.
I have
you
that
can't turn that off either, right?
Yeah,
they're the worst. Yeah. You
can play Xbox control only, I think, or controller.
Yeah, you can. And honestly, when I've done that,
control only is not Xbox only.
Right. I don't know if it's control only or Xbox.
I think you can segment playing with just Xbox players, though.
Yeah, I think you can.
And when I've done that, my experience has been better, to be honest. Just because PC players, like, they get like cheat, they hack the game and stuff like that. It can get pretty toxic. Yeah,
it's pretty bad. Makes me sad.
Right. I'll say what Luke would always say to you, which I know you just love to death. Yes. It's Sea of Thieves, not Sea of Friends.
You know what though? A few weeks ago, he
can be
tweeted out.
Friends though, if you.
It can be. He actually tweeted out. He's like, "Hey, you know what? I've been logging on to Sea of Thieves lately, and this is getting a little crazy, Rare, because I'm just getting destroyed within like the first 10 minutes. It's really not that fun." But that's what sells, man. That's what these companies see, and that's why it's so successful, because it's toxic as hell. It's one of the most welcoming game communities. My ass. That's what I say. So, Sea of Reefers. Yep. Thanks, Elu.
All right.
I got that out, so I feel good.
Yeah, I
Wow.
can tell.
Yeah.
All right. I think that's going to wrap us up this week. I just want to comment that I'm seeing Batman later, boys. Finally. I'm
Hell
excited.
yeah, finally.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I've seen it like 3 times now. You're so behind.
Yeah, I know. Trying to find time with my wife when my son's not working and need a ride. You know how it goes. So, yeah,
Casual.
go in here in a few hours. And also, next weekend, we get to talk about the Halo show because it launches on Friday. And I know.
Have you guys seen it? Have you guys seen any episodes?
No, we're not special, Travis. Have you seen the episodes? That's not out yet.
I've seen the first 2 episodes.
Get out of here.
Of course you have.
Get out of here.
He's got the big letters next to his name.
I don't believe you.
I totally believe him.
I don't believe him at all. He is lying his ass off.
Well, we
right
know
now.
the first 2 episodes were shown to the reviewers. So if Travis
they were
has access to
shown.
that server,
Well, I know that. I just know that he hasn't.
Oh, he just breaks into IGN stuff. He got all the encrypted passwords.
This is true.
But no, we'll get to talk about that next week, which will be cool. Well, hopefully cool. We shall see.
So many
In the
concerns
meantime,
about Halo.
I know. We'll see. We'll let's watch it and then we'll discuss.
You're gonna have Hogue is gonna confirm a lot of his pre-existing biases, I think, on this one.
It is a risk.
So come this week, we have a few things at Season Gaming. So we've got, for the record, the RDNA 2 discussion is out there, at least part 1 of that. That's up on the channel right now. Also have a conversation with Cerebral Paul Martin, and known in the gaming community, and an Xbox ambassador who does some streaming for them too. A conversation about accessibility. That's up on the channel, so please check that out. We actually have an interview with the creator of Trek to Yumi going live on Monday that Luke did as a guest contributor for Season Gaming. So we have that interview with him going up on Monday, so you can check that out. And the exclusivity period for our patrons is up this week. And so the conversation I sat down with Khalif Adams to talk about Spawn on Me and everything to do with his business and brand will go up this week as well. So good week of content coming. So check all that out. As always, thank you for tuning in. Travis, what's happening, man? Where can people find you? What you up to?
Yeah. You can see my review of Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. I keep wanting to call it Borderlands, but it does not have that in its
I can't
title.
imagine why.
Yeah, I can't imagine why. My review will be up Wednesday when the embargo lifts on that. And I'm also covering GDC, that's the Game Developers Conference, which takes place in San Francisco. So I'm going to be covering some, I think, unannounced games. I think they're unannounced, but they're smaller games. But I'm going to be at the conference in and out, going to a conference in person. Actually, it's happening physically. So I'll be doing that and hanging out with some IGN folk and covering stuff there. So you probably can find some coverage of stuff. I don't know when the embargoes are lifting, but I'll probably be writing stuff throughout the week on IGN.com. You can follow me on Twitter at TyGuyTravis, and you can read all of my other stuff on the website. I also do a Destiny show. If you Google me, you'll find it. That's that.
Google me.
Google me. I'm very Googleable. If you type in Ty Guy Travis or Travis Northup, you'll find me.
Good branding from the start, Travis.
Yeah.
Rick, what's happening?
I continue to mine the virtual legality mines over on my channel on youtube.com/Hoglaw, where we have just recently talked about things that we talked about today from a different perspective, mostly. But we talked about Gran Turismo 7's issues. We talked about Stranger Paradise having some very interesting streaming rules surrounding it and some big-time streamers discussing those for the first time. So I always like to jump on talking about copyright and how basically all the streamers on Twitch and anywhere else are being played by publishers in the way that they set up their legal licenses. If that sounds at all interesting to you, check that out on Virtual Legality. And if you enjoyed our Hogwarts Legacy conversation and you remember any kind of, controversial topics about it in the recent past, you might want to stay tuned to the channel. We're going to have an exclusive interview, God willing. I never like to make promises before people that are not inside my control actually show up later on this week. And that will probably get me banned on a few more forums. So please do drop in and check it out because it'll be very interesting, I think.
Fair enough. Look forward to that. All right. As always, We will be back next week with seemingly an interesting discussion with Rick, Halo TV show, and a lot more. But as always, thank you for tuning in to Bitcast, your weekly gaming show covering all things Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo, and PC with industry and technical insight. Until next week.